Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This is the conference meeting of the City Council of the City of Orange Township held in Council Chambers, City Hall, 29 North Day Street, Orange, New Jersey, on Wednesday, June 5th, 2019, at 7:10 p.m. Roll call. Councilwoman Eason? Here. Councilman Jackson?
Here.
Councilman Johnson Jr.?
Here.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson will be arriving approximately around 8 o'clock. Councilwoman Williams?
Present.
Councilwoman Wooten is in transit. She will not be in attendance tonight. Councilman Coley will be here within the next 10 minutes. Also present is Joyce L. Lanier, the city clerk, Chris M. Hartwick, the business administrator, Gracia R. Montillis, the city attorney. Is there a representative from the fire department? No. Marty Mays, planning and public works director, Todd Warren, police director, Marlon G. Towns, legislative research officer, Lisette Sanchez, record support technician. Please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please be apprised, anyone wishing to discuss agenda or general items shall sign one book. Each person signing the book will be allowed to speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. The requirements of NJSA 10:4-9 EDSEC, the Sunshine Law, has been met. A notice of this meeting was sent to the Star Ledger, published in the record transcript on July 12, 2018, posted on the bulletin board in City Hall, and filed in the office of the city clerk. Matters for discussion.
We're going to do the plaques first, right? Yeah, the plaques.
Councilwoman Easton, would you like to do the plaque presentation first? Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to ask the May family to come up.
Now they can all come. It's all the whole family. Come on up. Yeah. Yeah, that's what's up. Who's the matriarch? Who's your matriarch? Who's this? That's the matriarch? Okay. Right here? Okay. Stand right there.
You gotta have silence so people can hear. Honor your grandmother. Be quiet so people can hear. Good afternoon, or good evening.
Good evening.
I want to read the resolution celebrating the life of Eugenia Irvin May. Whereas the city of Orange Township, New Jersey mourns the passing of Eugenia Irvin May, and whereas we come together during this time of sadness to pay tribute to and celebrate the life of Eugenia Irvin May, who was a vital and central force in her family and valued member of the community. And whereas Eugenia Irvin May was born to the late Mr. Albert and Ms. Elizabeth Irvin on July the 3rd, 1931 in Albany, Georgia. I almost said Alabama, but she was affectionately known as Mama May. She married Johnny May, and they had 14 children. Hallelujah.
Amen. All right.
What a blessing. Her children were the love of her life. There was nothing she would not do for her children, and they had her full support. She decided to move to Newark, New Jersey in 1957. She found employment and had several different employers during the course of her life. She's finally retired from Barton Press after 31 years. And whereas Eugenia Irvin May began her spiritual journey at a young age, the spiritual seed was planted when she attended Hopewell Baptist Church in Dothan, Georgia. She later joined the Love of Jesus Church in Newark, New Jersey in 2001. She loved attending every service to hear Bishop Barbara Clanton, whom she adopted as her oldest child, preach. She was a dedicated servant and was ordained as an elder of the church on January the 22nd, 2006. And whereas Eugenia Irvin May had a beautiful soul, huge heart, and bright smile, she was a caregiver to many people. She loved her family and community. She worked tirelessly to keep the area in which she lived clean. She opened up her home to many people that were homeless and sick. She took in many children who were abandoned by their own families and even adopted a few children as her own. She brought happiness and strength to many lives, no matter the situation or circumstances. And whereas Eugenia Irvin May had a variety of interests, she enjoyed being outside planting her vegetables and flowers. She also enjoyed cooking for her family, knitting, singing, babysitting her grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. In her quiet time, you will see her sitting in the window doing her puzzle or reading her Bible. She was not your average 89-year-old woman. She was fearless, feisty, fabulous, forgiving, and loving. She withstood and overcame many obstacles. She truly loved and made many sacrifices for her family. And whereas Eugenia Irvin May was full of purpose and touched many lives with her kindness, compassion, and wisdom, although the light of this shining star has dimmed, her legacy will blaze on forever, serving as a source of joy, comfort, and inspiration to those fortunate to have known her. Whereas Eugenia May passed away on May 7, 2019. Whereas Eugenia Irvin May leaves to cherish her memory, her children, which I'm not going to read them all. Now therefore be it resolved that the Orange City Council of the City of Orange Township do hereby offer sincere condolences to the family of Eugenia Irvin May. May the warm memories bring joy and comfort in the days ahead. Be it further resolved that the city urges residents following the passage of this resolution to do random acts of kindness toward others and a member of Eugenia Irvin May. I remember Miss May when I first moved to Orange in 1973. She was always out cleaning, sweeping, taking care of her family. And you can see God blessed her with a beautiful family. And you all are together. That's a blessing. That is a blessing. So my hope is that in order to honor her memory, that you all will stay together, love each other, don't sweat the small things, and stay together as a family, because you know Mama May would want that. So God bless each of you, and we pay tribute to her today for all that she's done. She was always busy in politics, getting people out to vote, so she was really an asset to the community, and we want to thank her for her services and everything that she has done. So I'm going to present the plaque. You can take this one. And I give this to the oldest daughter.
Somebody got to say remarks.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Okay, listen. We want to thank y'all for honoring my grandmother. I don't need it. I got a deep voice. I want to thank y'all for honoring my grandmother. Just to know that this community appreciated each and everything that she did. She was more than just a grandmother. I mean, to me, that house on High Street is like a landmark. Because each and every person that was out there that needed a place to come, needed a place to rest, or needed just kind words or words of encouragement, she was there for them. I mean, we may not always agree all the time, but when a situation occurred that we know how to come together as a family. People may not see that, but we do. I just want to tell you today, Ms. Easton, thank you for bringing forth this plaque and these words. And I don't know what else to say. I want to say this, though. I love you with all my heart and soul. Without you, I was nothing, but you made me the man I am today, and I'm going to make you proud. Thank you.
There you go. Amen. Amen.
Wait, go ahead. Coach, I'm saying, is Coach, are you coming to say something, Coach?
You want to say something, Coach? Come on, Coach. And Orange is still grooming one of her grandsons, Coach Arkey. As As you can see, he's a little shy. So you want to take a picture outside or?
We want council members to say something?
Yeah. Does any of the council members have anything to say?
Council members?
Well, if I may, Council President. All right, now your grandmother, I want to say that somebody has to do something, but she laid the ground. So somebody from the family is going to have to be in our seats one of these days. And I want y'all to think about that. You can't be in power if you're just watching us. So talking about being proud, she'd be real proud to have councilman or mayor or business administrator or something in front of your name. Make this your town, run it.
Council President,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to address the family. God bless Mother May. I never had an opportunity to meet her. I'm a South Jersey guy transplanted into Orange, but I do attend the same church as Councilwoman Eason, and if it's on her heart and her spirit to let me know about someone in the North Ward as great as your grandmother, well, I appreciate this moment of sharing with you. God bless you.
Councilwoman Williams?
To the May family, your mother, your grandmother, mom, great-grandmother, how many generations do we have here? 4 or 5. So we'll have maize and orange forever, ever. So just the legacy that she has left speaks for itself, and her heart, just being a person of the community, we see it. If we don't see it, we see it in Belva, we see it in Aki, and there are just the different posts that we have seen. We see it throughout the whole family, so thank you. I know that this is, when the matriarch leaves, is very hard to come to terms with, but I'm sure that she has prepared each and every one of you in your individual ways for how you can pick up the torch and carry on what she has started. And if we could do anything for you, you know we're here, and I know our key is going to hold us accountable, so so I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm thankful for the life that she lived that brought us this beautiful legacy. And I said, "Whoa, we got a lot of people coming for council meeting tonight." So thank you.
All right,
Councilwoman Eason?
She spoke.
Okay. Again, my heartfelt condolences to your family, and I just wish you guys nothing but the best going forward in the future, and I'm sure you guys are going to continue to do great things in Orange. Thank you so much.
all right, all right.
Oh, we want to do the picture up here.
Is Big Eight out there?
Oh, the BA. Oh, Alnado's ready. Mr. Webster?
Yes,
You ready?
I'm ready. Hi, guys. Good evening. Good evening.
How are you?
Oh, my God.
We previously, I'm Arthur Webster, Inglesino Webster, which is Scotland Taylor. We're the applicants, we're the lawyers for the applicants this evening, Mr. Rob and Mr. James. We've presented a packet that I think you guys have in front of you. We're here tonight to talk about 595 Lincoln Avenue. I also have some fuller size renderings. If you flip to page 2 of your packet, you can see where 595 Lincoln is.
Council President?
Yes,
Just for a
Council.
point of clarity, just so people in the audience that may not know what the specific address, can you just say where 595 is?
Yes, it's on the corner of Tremont and Lincoln.
It's the old police department building.
Yes, it's the old
Yes.
police department building. And I think most of the audience has been given a packet. So I'm hoping they can follow along. So if you look at the first page, it shows you a top-down view from one of the Google programs probably, and you can see where the red exclamation point is the location of the project. We've had 2 or 3 community meetings to kind of come up with this design, and what we found was that the area had some parking challenges. There were most of the folks that came out, I don't think actually most of them, I think every one of them that came out. I don't think they really had any other questions but parking. So we reconfigured the project. Originally, the project was about 50 units and about 60 parking spaces. I'm sorry, yeah, about 50-50, it was 1-to-1. And that was rejected by the community. So we came back with a different project. We've taken the whole lot essentially, and you know that lot slopes down. So the front will be grade level, but the sides, you'll see later on in the presentation, will allow underground parking. So essentially the ground floor, basement level, will be 95 covered, secured parking spaces. We have 60 units that we're proposing. They're all 2-bedroom units. And unlike most of the projects that you're getting, the people are presenting to you, this is actually a for-sale project that the town, that the administration is trying to make a what I would call a workforce development price. So we're pricing it between $300,000 and $350,000. But it is a market rate project. It has on the basement level 95 parking spaces. Ground floor has 14 2-bedrooms, a residential lounge, a fitness room, a lobby. It has 7 private terraces, so the units that face the interior courtyard on the first level will have private terraces, and then there is a residential terrace, so for the folks that aren't fortunate enough to occupy one of the interior units. The second floor, which is on page 5 of the presentation, second and third floors, you'll see that we have 19 two-bedroom units. And then on the 4th floor, we have a rooftop terrace, which is for the entire community. And also we have 8 two-bedroom units. If you look at page 7, I think it's a very handsome building. That's the front elevation of the building. You can see that it's got brick, it's got some stucco, it's got some steel, it's got really, and obviously these are things that we can have conversations with you guys about, with the planning board about, but this is this is basically the scope and kind of the scale of what we think would look good there and we're hoping to build. If you look at page 8, you can see the side view of the building. This would be a view looking in from Tremont, and you can see how the street slopes down and the parking garage is underneath, so you can see that. We've been in negotiation with the municipality. The business administrator, if he thinks it's appropriate, can disclose the terms of the deal. I don't know if he wants to do it in public or he wants to do it in closed session. I would presume he wants to do it in closed session. But we're here tonight to answer any questions you have. Again, we think the building is handsome. The community, we've had 2.5 meetings, and we think
that the community has embraced this. They were very happy with the parking ratio, which is more than 1-to-1. And you know, 1-to-1 is kind of the standard now. So we are more than 1-to-1. We're excited about it. We'd like to, if we could, our timing would be to enter into a deal with this council's consent sometime over the summer through the fall and winter, finish a redevelopment agreement, get site plan approval with the goal of starting construction as soon as the weather breaks in 2020. So again, we've got young and diverse developers, and we're super excited. We think the project is a great project and fits in nicely in Orange. Their for-sale product, which we think is great because, as you know, you make a lot more money in taxes as a municipality from for-sale units than you do as rentals. So we think it checks all the boxes, and we're hoping that folks like you consider moving in. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Mr. Business Administrator, if I've forgotten anything,
Would you
happy to be
give a
reminded.
summary of the principal's experience?
Sure. Mr. Rob and Mr. James, despite their looking a little old, are actually very young men. They've been friends since they were students in Del Barton High School in Morris County. They allege to have been good athletes, lacrosse players. I've seen no videotape of it. I only know the allegations. I've not been able to prove it. I haven't been able to disprove it, but I haven't been able to prove it. Mr. James, as you know, was a councilman in Newark, in the South Ward of Newark, for a number of years. And since he's left office, he and Mr. Rob have engaged in a number of adaptive reuse projects and construction projects in Jersey City and in Newark, and in a couple other towns as well. So they've probably built 4 or 5 buildings and probably rehabbed probably another 20. They are, I think, what the community needs: young, hungry, aggressive developers who want to come in and build a great project and further their brand and further their reputation. I think this project has been a while coming. We've been negotiating with the administration for probably the better part of 2 years, and so we're super excited to be here tonight to go to the next step. Obviously, we know that we got to get your permission, we got to get your buy-in. So we're hoping that you see fit to allow us to go to the next step. But their experience, they've got the capability, they've got the financial backing.
Okay.
As part of our
All right.
application, we've submitted a proof of funds. We've submitted a detailed application. I know you guys had some
Well, let me ask
questions
you
about
this. What haven't you done?
it. What haven't I done or what haven't they done?
Yes, the team. What haven't the team done so far, as far as this project is concerned?
We haven't gotten your permission,
Okay.
and that's kind of a big deal.
Okay, so let's start right there. Any council members that has a question?
Council President?
Yes, Councilwoman Williams.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Why did he sound so muffled?
I know, I was gonna say,
Webster, Mr. Webster.
Mr. Elnardo, thank you.
You can call me L, you can call me Elnari, you can call me
Couldn't get it.
Webster, you can call me Big Head.
Tell me, for this project, what's the name of the development team?
It's George Robb and Oscar James Jr.
That's the name of the,
The team is called Chadwick County.
Chadwick Development.
thank you, Chadwick
Oh,
Development,
the development company, I'm sorry, Chadwick Development.
Chadwick Development. And how many projects have they done prior to this?
13, 12, 13.
Can you just tell me like 3?
They have 10.
Okay.
I don't know the addresses, they're in the application.
If you can like point me to just 3 good projects that you would like us to,
Yeah, projects we've,
is there any project that's comparable to what you're trying to do here?
You want to introduce yourself for the record as you speak?
George
Thanks.
Robb.
Okay,
Oscar James.
okay.
In New Jersey, there's no comparable projects that we've done.
Okay.
The comparable projects that we've done in New Jersey, we've been part of a senior development in Sussex County.
Okay.
It's not comparable, but it was basically, what, how many units?
It was 118 units.
And we have
We built out.
19 underdeveloped
Yeah.
lots. We've completed the whole project, was able to actually go through all roads and the road work to the town.
Do you have any projects just in Essex County that I can go look at?
Yeah, so in Essex County, currently we've developed 490 Clinton Avenue.
In Newark,
We've-
okay.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
We've also done 335 to 341 Lyons Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And these were just mainly renovations. And my family history has been more in New York, taking existing structures, building on top of them. And if you want to look them up, is 35 Vestry Street,
35,
35 VES TRY.
Vestry, okay.
Yep. 124 East 13th Street.
No, that's good. 124, just
Sorry.
103, East 13th, okay.
I live in New York, so the
Okay,
numbers
I
come quick.
got you. And this project, so what I heard is that they're condos for sale.
For sale.
Anywhere from 300 to, I heard 300K to 350K. All right. And if, assuming you get all the approvals from the city and everything goes by, shovels in the ground by,
Shovel will be in the ground summer next year.
Um,
Yeah, March, spring.
of 2020.
Because we have to do demolition to start off with.
And this is total residential.
Yes.
There's no retail, it's not mixed use.
Got you.
100% residential.
And while you are doing this, and I hear you have the one-for-one, do you have, you being from New York, have a plan to market too? Because this is in walking distance to a train station in hopes that you have perhaps commuters as opposed to everybody in
Yeah.
a car.
Our plan is, if I could just change the,
Okay.
the top portion here would be smaller compact parking, which would be guest parking. And also, we were hoping, kind of like temporary parking for guests, things like that. And though we have the ratio, obviously in an Uber environment or Lyft, whatever people use, we foresee and what we've seen in market studies, families tend to have one car in these neighborhoods with the one person taking the train and the other family, this would be like kind of a starter home for certain families
Right.
that weren't from the community. So they'd have one car in the park, garage. We're hoping for a zero impact outside of the building, the parking.
So you're looking at commuter parking. Do you, I forgot my question that quick, but, go ahead, Council President, come back to me.
Council members, any other questions?
Yeah, I do, Council President. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
Nice rendering, nice presentation. Is this a condo project?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now,
For sale condo project.
how does the developer transition the condo association into taking over its situation? I'm kind of vague on that, how it actually gets started on, you sell the projects, the homes to people, and eventually somebody has to develop a condo association, correct?
So there's a process in New Jersey.
Step to the mic.
Yeah.
There's a process in New Jersey where when you develop a condo project, you have to register your condominium association with the Department of Community Affairs. It's a pretty lengthy process, and when we sell the project, you sell a condominium, you sell a unit in that association. The developer will be part of the association on a decreasing basis. So when we first build it, we'll own 100% of the association.
Correct.
As people buy units, the developer will decrease to the point where they're not in it anymore when they sell the last units, and it'll be self-governed. So the 60 units, once they're fully rented out, they'll self-govern. So they'll decide, when they want to cut the grass, they'll decide, when they want to do maintenance. We will put in place good best practices. So we'll put in place, systems to develop escrows. We'll hire the right accountants to help them do it. We'll hire the right law firm that is used to running associations. But at some point, probably, hopefully, within a year or so, we're out of the deal, and those folks are governing themselves. So it's a gradual process, and it's based on percentage. So when we're 50% or more, we'll control it. But as more people move in, then the tenants, the residents, not tenants, the residents will control the association.
Okay, that answered my question. The second question that I did have is the entrance and exit for the parking lot are both on Lincoln Avenue or on Laurel and Lincoln?
There's nothing on Lincoln, it's on Tremont.
I meant to say Tremont. I'm
Yeah, it's
sorry.
on
I meant to say
Tremont and Laurel. They're both,
I just misspoke. I meant to
Yes.
say Tremont.
yes, on both sides. They come in and out on both sides.
In and out on both sides?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you, because I can imagine rush hour traffic in the morning.
It's only-
People make,
Not that many folks, really. I mean, if you do, you know, we've done a preliminary traffic study. I'm gonna tell you it has no impact.
well, Lincoln Avenue is pretty traveled in the morning for school.
Right,
Because you got three
but what I'm
schools.
saying is the amount of people that are gonna be coming in and out are like less than like 3 per 10 minutes. So it's not a,
Okay.
it's not a,
Well-
because remember, you're doing from like 6 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock, 9:30 is rush hour. So it's, people leave the house at different times. So you'll have people who leave at 6 o'clock, you have people who leave at 8 o'clock, 8:15, 8:30. So when you do the bell curve that the traffic study is, you'll find that the 94 cars that can come in and out of there from both directions, it's not gonna, the level of service will not be impacted, and it's gonna be immaterial to actually the volume of traffic that's already traveling in that area.
Okay, and I was referring to the volume of traffic that's already there. I wasn't
Right.
even talking about, I
Yeah.
can imagine, I don't live in the South Ward, but I can imagine with the apartment buildings and the school and everything, what's transpiring over there. So if it works, fine.
One of the things that came up during the community meetings is people were recollecting, the building hasn't been used for a number of years.
Yeah.
But when it was the municipal court and police station, it was used very heavily during the day. It generated a significant amount of activity in and out.
Right.
This would be a much less intense use, because you're basically talking about residential use, so your in and out trips are less than what you would see in a building that has 24-hour use.
And one more quick question. How in a new bill like this, how does the tax structure for each individual homeowner get started? How is that equated?
It's part of the negotiation with respect to the financial agreement. It would be similar to the way we structured, I shouldn't say similar, it'll be better than that. It will be better than the way it was structured on the Berg Hat Factory, which is also a condominium building.
Okay.
There are particular provisions that have to be added to the agreement because ownership changes, and the abatements that are granted on condominiums have to be transferable to new owners.
And water bills too? Water and
Yes.
sewer
Yes.
bills?
Yes.
Absolutely.
This building will be individually metered, so both sewer, electric, gas, and water will all be individually metered.
Meter. Okay. Thank you much, Council
A
President.
lot of the mistakes that you may be aware of in some other condo buildings, where either you don't have an association or you have one water meter for the whole place,
Yeah,
we won't have those
yeah,
here.
we're not gonna do that. There'll be 61 meters. There'll be a meter for each unit, and there'll be a common meter. So, that'll be what you know, the hoses and the landscaping and the water that waters the grass and whatnot. All those will be on a separate meter. That'll be a condo association. That'll be apportioned equally. But that's, or maybe not even equally, maybe based upon the amount of ownership you have. Some units will be a little smaller than others. But, you know, we're working through those issues because they're all 2 bedrooms. Usually it's apportioned, like if you had a studio or 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, it'd be different rates that you pay into the association. But since they're all 2 bedrooms, we're kind of going back and forth on how to treat that.
And I think that this might inform some of your questions. But the purpose of the presentation tonight is to go to the next step, which is a preliminary developer designation, which would allow them to get a right of access agreement to do any environmental due diligence they would need to do, and to go to the next stage of their planning process. We
And
would then
also-
have to come back for a redeveloper agreement approval and a financial agreement approval.
So, and also we want access so that we can start doing some environmental analysis on the building and demolition analysis on the building. So those are kind of big things.
Council members, any other questions?
May I?
Yes, Councilman Jackson.
Thank you, Council President. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. I really like the 2 Jersey guys who knew each other all this. So that means you can really trust each other. I like that kind of stuff, man. It's really good. Thanks for coming to see us.
Cross guys, though.
You know, it's all right. You got Gotta keep an eye on. But thanks for coming to Orange. I appreciate it. And they talk about the police building. That actually was where I attended 6th grade at Tremont Avenue School. So a long time ago, it was a lot more children walking up and down that street. But I appreciate that you went before the community and reduced the questions that we're going to receive by answering directly to them. That's a good start for the project. And I had a question about the elevator. That you had an elevator in the building, right? Because I see how it exits right next to the handicap spots on the bottom, on the parking level. And it seems that, well, maybe it's just the rendering is different, but how big is that car in the elevator? Because I know that one of the stressors is moving things from the parking lot, or if somebody's moving, that they have to move everything all the way up to the top floor. That, hopefully they have plenty of square footage inside.
So the handicap parking spaces are 12 by 18.
Yes.
So I mean, obviously this rendering is going
A
to have
little
to go
bit
through
off.
some tightening up.
Yes.
But that space in between, that hash mark space in between is at least 10 feet wide.
Okay,
So
good.
you're not going to have any problems maneuvering in and out of there.
Okay, so I would just, as I'm looking at the second and third floor, it just seems like there's a smaller car in the elevator, and maybe it's those renderings that are confusing me a little bit.
I think that I would caution that these are just preliminary conceptual renderings.
Okay, good.
Right.
And as the process moves along, a lot of that stuff will get tightened up in more detail.
Okay. One of the things and another development that is a peeve is I see the number of windows. I'm hoping that you maintain that kind of lighting inside the units. It's very important. There's some slight variations in square footage. I see, can you just quickly give me an idea of what the differences are?
I think that what we're looking for is, for 2 bedrooms, we're looking to have the unit be at least 800 square feet.
800, okay. All right, that sounds good.
Closer to 900, I'm sorry.
Closer to 900?
Closer to 900.
All right. And other than that, thanks for coming before us. Appreciate your hard work.
Absolutely.
All right.
Council members, any other questions?
Council President,
Yes, Councilwoman Eason.
I guess I understand what you're saying, but normally, in the real world, you can't really predict traffic flow when you're building apartments like that. Because we assume it's gonna be one car, people moving there with 5, 6 cars. We know that usually happens, because it's interesting, because I was in Somerset, I remember starting when my sons moved down there, there was no traffic. And then you go down there, they got traffic jams, because they keep building and building and building, and you're sitting in traffic lights, just like you are in Newark and other cities, so I wouldn't say that there won't be any increase in the traffic, because we know that's not true. But also, the other thing I want to say, when you guys decide to do these complexes, do you ever think about putting some type of computer room or something, the kids that move there or the parents, they can have some outlet? Even, because there's really no park right there, so.
So we don't do it, but we did build in, if you look, residence lounge and a
Yeah, but what are you
fitness room.
gonna have in the lounge is what I'm asking.
So we're gonna program it more like a living room. But if the residents and the tenants association, if the condo association wants to, change it around, they have every right. Remember, we're only the owners for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
At some point, the folks that are living there are gonna make their own decisions. If they decide, hey, we wanna set up a room in there and have 8 or 10 computers, that's completely up to them. If they wanna, take a piece of the fitness room and build a wall and build a computer center or a business center, that's completely up to them. If it's something that I think that the marketing shows makes sense, we'd probably try to figure out how to squeeze it in.
Right.
But to be quite honest, nowadays, I don't really see computer rooms because everybody's got laptops and iPads. So there's not kind of the old days where you kind of had these big stationary boxes. People will sit in the residence lounge because there'll be Wi-Fi there, and they'll essentially do everything that you used to do in a computer room while laying back on the couch watching TV. And I don't know if...
But I work in a school district, so I know that's not true. A lot of families don't have all that, but anyway, moving on. We would like to think that, but that's not true.
And then
Because some kids go to the library, to do their stuff, or but it would.
But you
know,
can, you
be
can, you
when
can,
you-
you can
yeah.
add a air printer to the Wi-Fi so that you can actually print and do work in that space. I mean, and if that's something that, you know, the marketing shows as we get into it a little more, that's a community, a needed community benefit or amenity, we would definitely include it in, you know, we could put a printer on, you know, everywhere. I mean, it's not, that's not hard to do.
And Councilwoman, just so you know, one of the things that we're starting to build into all of our redevelopment agreements is Wi-Fi coverage for smart city purposes, which we'll talk about some more this fall. But every new development is effectively going to have Wi-Fi coverage.
See, I was really hoping we were gonna get a vocational school over there, but
I know.
Council President?
Yes, Councilwoman Williams.
I just, maybe Mr. Hartwick, you had 2 forums, community forums,
There were 2, yes.
and approximately how many people at each forum?
We have a sign-in list.
yeah.
We can provide you with the sign-in
No,
list.
just about just one, how
I
many?
would say the first one, probably 40, the second one, probably 30.
Okay, and basic, 40 and then 30, you said?
40 people the first time, probably 30 people the second time.
And then the consensus was basically
Knock the building down and provide additional parking.
to the project?
Yes.
No, so they were supportive of the project? That's-
Yes.
The first presentation showed a adaptive reuse of the existing structure. That was not received well, basically because of parking. And the second presentation, which was agreed to that night, showed the alternative, and that was received very well.
Okay. And you have repeat people come?
Yes.
Okay. And I think, and I know you said that there's rooftop space.
Yes.
And I heard you say for the community, so.
Oh, I'm
and-
sorry, no, for the
Condo community.
I just wanted-
for the residents, for
okay.
the owners of the building.
Okay, that's so.
Not for folks off the street, no.
Okay, got you. Okay. Not for the people in the neighborhood? Okay. And then you workforce housing, and in a year, it's hard to predict, because I believe there are grants out there now for Live Where You Work, financing and
it's-
thing.
We had talked fairly extensively about the Good Neighbor Program, which would provide incentives for municipal, school district employees, public safety employees, to be able to buy into the building and live in the community.
Okay. Thank you.
Council members, any other questions? I have a question. 60 units, that's gonna be for sale. What if you guys, worst case scenario, you don't, within 2.5 years, you don't reach that magic number, that you're looking for to sell the units, and then what will you do? What is your plan then?
Well, I mean, traditionally what happens is the ownership would then lease the units.
Second?
The owners would, if, let's say you sold 50 and you had 10 left, and you couldn't sell them for whatever reason. I don't think that's gonna be the case, but, you would just lease them.
Okay. Is that something that is built into the, that we just?
You're not allowed to restrict the ownership type in a redevelopment agreement or in a planning board approval. So, but the models are different. So if you were building this to be a rental project, it would be built differently than how you would build it to be a condo project. The amenities and the finishes in a condominium project are more expensive and more high-end, whereas rental projects don't have as much investment in the finishes. So if you make the commitment to build it as a condominium, you have every incentive to finish it. There are a number of examples, because we had the real estate crash in 2008 and we had a little recession in 2003, of buildings that were actually built as condominium buildings that didn't sell as a result of those market fluctuations. And they turned into high-end rental buildings, one of which was recently sold and was so high-end that it actually set the multifamily sales record for the state of New Jersey. And it was only 79 units. So you can't build it into the agreements, but the planning and financing are very different.
But also the tax piece is gonna be
Right.
The same. So we're gonna pay taxes as if we were owners on the deal, because that's the way the agreement's gonna be written. So the taxes that the town receives are gonna be the same.
So regardless of what happens, best case scenario, worst case scenario, that number
Right.
is staying the same? Okay.
Correct.
And just one last area, are you guys gonna be working closely with the health department when you do the demolition? I'm setting down some baits, because I'm sure there's gonna be a infestation of some rodents that may be running around. How are you guys gonna handle that?
We will comply with whatever the demolition program in Orange is.
We're required,
Yeah.
actually, the Department of Health is required to go out and do the baiting for the
Okay.
demolition and to
So we will-
supervise it.
We will have all the appropriate fencing and safety measures, and, folks will wear the appropriate safety vests, and the soil erosion and sediment control plans will be in
Okay.
place.
And
We're-
we've
we're
made
gonna
a
do it the right way.
point whenever we do a project like this, for example, in the Crane Street project, we have, we will go out and notify all the neighbors. The city will do that well in advance of the demolition.
And the good thing, Council President, is that none of these buildings actually touch other buildings, so it's not like a situation where
Right.
you're demoing something that's, kind of right next to it or an alleyway away. There's a good circumference of around the whole building.
Yeah, I know that. That's why I, mentioned that if you do the baiting prior to, you can catch a lot of stuff before it spreads out.
Yeah, so I would hope that there's not a whole bunch there.
Okay.
It's been out of use for a while, so hopefully there's not too much going on there.
All right. Council members, any other questions for?
None from me, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yep.
For the
Madam Clerk,
record,
do you want me to leave the drawings, or,
you can.
okay.
For the record, Council President Coley arrived at 7:19. Councilwoman Summers Johnson arrived at 7:56. And Deputy Chief Almendinger from the Fire Department arrived at 7:32. For the audience, there are 2 walk-ons that's outside in the hallway if you need a copy. Council members, are there any resolutions or ordinance on tonight's agenda that you wish to discuss?
Council members, any?
Yes, one second.
I have one. Council members, any ordinances, resolutions?
Council President,
Yes, Councilwoman.
through you to, a business administrator, 2005, 2019. I'm sorry, 205.
Yes.
So we have a new developer for REOC?
Yes, ma'am. So, the last project, one of the reasons why we had that revocation resolution and ordinance on, I think it was at the last meeting, the last project developer was L&M. Their model included the application for 9% low and moderate income tax credits. They made that application. They scored in the bottom third of all the applications that were submitted. And they decided that the model they were using wasn't viable for the site. Since that occurred, we've been negotiating with other property owners and encouraging developers who showed interest to acquire as much property as they could in the area. This particular entity was encouraged and did invest significantly in acquiring, and they have closed on the single largest parcel in the REOC development area, which was the old Tenasia warehouse and parking lot. It was a $2.8+ million acquisition. They also own additional parcels that were part of the original L&M project on Rioch Street.
So L&M no longer exists.
Correct. Well, they exist, but they're no longer
mean for
involved in this
Rioch Street.
project. Right.
Okay.
And where L&M was doing a mixed-use project consistent with the master plan and the recommendations contained in the master plan, this is a market rate development within 2 blocks of a train station.
Does that include the George Carnegie site?
Actually, as part of the project, when we get to the redevelopment agreement, that portion which is currently owned by DOT, we have approval for that portion to be conveyed to the city. And when we convey that to the developer, it will include an upgrade of the memorial and a non-disturbance agreement.
Council members, any other ordinances, resolutions?
I have one, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Shortly, on 26.
26, okay.
Yes. 26 is an ordinance rescinding the ordinance, the approval of a tax exemption for Walter G. Ford.
We're holding that ordinance and the accompanying or corresponding resolution to the June 18th meeting. The Housing Authority people are out of town at a conference. I got an email requesting that. I think as a courtesy, we should do that since they couldn't be here to address it. And in the interim, I'll probably have a meeting with the Housing Authority before the June 18th meeting.
Beautiful, thank you.
Okay.
And I think that's all I had. My other questions were answered last night at the
Okay.
Finance Committee meeting.
Council members, any other resolutions, ordinances?
Council President?
Yes, sir.
If I may, I think I just want to be clear on the resolution that got amended. I'm trying to think on the top of my head.
Was it 198, I think it was?
The one for appropriations.
Temporary appropriations?
You want to know what was amended on it?
No, I want it on the record and clear when we speaking to our constituents tonight that this is the last one prior to the budget being adopted. Can I get an amen on that, or we?
So it would have come during the Finance Committee update,
Can
but
you just, do it then? Yeah, because you're going to do a whole thing about the budget.
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
okay. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Oh, no, I just
you have
have, yeah. 204, 2019. Mr. B.A., we spoke earlier. If you can just kind of reiterate what you had mentioned earlier about the actual cost
Sure.
for this.
Ross, could you bring me those numbers? On 204? So let me just give you the summary on the numbers. I pulled the resolution, so here we go. So the price per million gallons that we were paying to American Water was $9,000 per per million gallons during peak periods. and $61.50 approximately per million gallons during off-peak periods. The East Orange rates are $2,875 per million gallons. That's for the bulk purchase. And there is a slightly higher rate, approximately, I think, $3,700 per million gallons for an emergency usage. And the emergency would be anything above what our bulk monthly requirement is. So if you do the math on those, we were taking from American Water approximately 500,000 gallons per year. You're achieving roughly a 60% savings in this contract over what you were paying to American Water. And all of these contracts, so you know, are set up, I don't know whether they use this terminology anymore, I might be aging myself, but they're set up as basically take-or-pay contracts. So because you're reserving the capacity of water under the contract from the bulk provider, and it doesn't matter whether that's East Orange, American, or United, you pay for that water whether you use it or not. What it does give you, and what DEP really likes to see, is it gives you system redundancy so that if all of your wells or half of your wells went down at one time, or the filtration plant went down for any extended period of time, you now have built out a direct connection with East Orange Water and a direct connection on the other side of town with American Water. So you have built in redundancy that helps you to keep your capacity to service your residents and to fight fires at all times if this contract is approved. It's also part of the plan that we've been discussing with with the DEP for a number of months. And once the city council approves it, the contract will go to DEP for approval. And if they have any comments that would materially change the contract, obviously we would be back to the council, but they've seen and understand the terms of the contract, so it has to be approved both for us and for the provider by DEP.
Okay, and just one last thing, 207-2019, speaking of DEP, both these resolutions is critically important regarding DEP.
So, yes.
Okay.
As I indicated to you when we spoke in closed session for a variety of reasons, Resolution 2007, we're aware of the expense. We are aware that, we're asking for a big number, but what we're doing and what we commit to do with the council, because I think it's important, the mayor has authorized me to say that we will break this contract essentially into 3 phases for the balance of the year, and that each phase we will give you a written report of what's been accomplished, and then we will bring the consultant in to give you a in-person report as to what's been accomplished and what's next in the second phase. And these steps need to be taken to stabilize the utility and to get us on the correct regulatory track with DEP.
Council President, if I...
No, one last question. These phases that you just mentioned, do you have some targeted dates already scheduled?
Basically, you have effectively 7 months left in the year, and so what I'd like to do is to break the phases into the next 2 months, then 4 months, then 6 months, so that you have all of your reports and are up to date by the end of November. And then in December, we will decide where we go from there.
Okay, and who's going to be in charge of managing this contract, 207-2019?
So the team currently includes 2 Public Works employees, plus the Director of Public Works and myself.
So ultimately, it's going to fall on your shoulders.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, all right. Yes, Councilman Jackson.
I like the way you did that there, Council
Yes.
President. That's all right, that's all right. Accountability is very important. If I
Yes.
may, there's a minimal amendment we talked about in terms of the number in the title. 225 is 220, right?
Yes, it should be 220. That was my math mistake.
And also in the whereas at the bottom of the page and the
And in
final.
the now wherefore at the end of the
There you
resolution.
go. Every place you see 225, it should be 220K.
That's correct.
Now, my comment is not only on this, but it is a combination. Not only are you saving us money with the 204 and also 207, the management of the project, but it's best practices what we're doing, right? And also the regulatory agency finds that it's an improvement upon what we've been already doing.
So, as I explained to council, and I think that the public probably deserves this explanation, water utilities are considered Tier 1 critical infrastructure. They have been considered Tier 1 critical infrastructure since amendments under federal law in 2004. Prior to that, they were still considered critical infrastructure, but they weren't necessarily Tier 1. As Tier 1 critical infrastructure, the regulatory agencies, both federal and state, require that the operating and owning entity have an asset management assessment plan, which is the AMP that we've been talking about so much. But then as you get into the creation of the AMP, there are subcategories of the AMP that are also required. Those subcategories include a maintenance plan, a capital improvement plan, and a security plan. The contract that's before you gets us through 80% of that process. Developing, not only completing the AMP, but then developing the subcomponents of the AMP, which include the capital improvement plan, the security plan, and the maintenance plan. All of this will be computerized. There are some big capital numbers coming your way that we will need to invest in the water utility to become compliant under those plans. Give you an example. Right now, you don't have flow meters on a lot of your pumps or on your storage tank. So you don't really have an ability to monitor that except to actually send somebody up to the Walker Road tank with a stick and measure what's there. That's not best practices. In addition, we don't have gate valves on Walker Road tank. So if we wanted to, it's a gravity feed tank, and if we wanted to measure and stop that flow, we have to do it down on Beach Street. We can't do it up at Walker Road. We don't have sensors or SCADA reading systems on a number of our wells or transmission lines. We had a leak detection study done, and the leak detection study showed a number of leaks, which we're in the process of addressing. But as we move forward, we're going to have to install a SCADA system and sensors so that we get computer notification from the sensors of potential changes in pressure in the pipes or in valves. All of those are improvements that we need to make to the system. There is a pipe which we've talked to you about under the Glen Avenue Bridge, which is exposed to the elements. We're talking to the county and to the state DEP about, stabilizing and securing that pipe so that's not exposed to the elements. There is some aeration that needs to be done at the reservoir, and think of it in terms of pretty water fountains in the middle of the reservoir. But we need to increase the aeration there in order to decrease the magnesium buildup. So there are a lot of things. We need new meters throughout the entire city. We've identified over 130 buildings that are not metered. That adds to loss and puts rate strain on all of the people who are paying for their water because those buildings are not being metered, they're not paying. And that's not something that just happened. That's developed over the course of 40 years. So we have a rough idea. We have wrapped our arms around what the issues and challenges are, and this is our plan as the next step to get us into stable footing and resolve some of those issues. And this plan will play out. The critical component of this plan, in my judgment, is the next 10 months. Then the capital improvements will happen over a period of 3 to 5 years, because you just can't do them all at once. We did the leak detection study as an adjunct to checking all of the water and sewer and stormwater infrastructure under the 41 streets that we're paving. And there are 3 of those streets where there were issues that were identified, so we've moved those streets to the end of the program so that we have an engineering solution to the water and sewer issues that we discovered when we did that. So we're moving in the right direction, but to answer your question, this and the East Orange Water bulk purchase agreement are critical components of becoming compliant with DEP.
Thank you for that. If I may, one more follow-up.
Yes, sir.
quickly. Mr. Business Administrator, as we look at this contract with this company, do we anticipate managing these assets in-house at some point? Are we looking forward to that at some point?
That's an ongoing, we have to assess our ability to do that. We have to assess when we can get there, if we can get there. What I think we need to focus on right now is stabilizing the system and getting us compliant with our requirements with DEP and the EPA.
I
So
agree.
we can answer that question, but I don't think we'll be able to answer it for about 2 years.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, sir.
Council President,
Councilman
if I
Johnson.
may
Yes, sir.
comment, since we on 207-2019,
Yes, sir.
and on the benefit of hopefully a number of Westward residents are watching the telecast tonight, and my neighbors throughout Orange, this is at the point where the council and administration is really taking and addressing some of the most serious things in our town that have been neglected over the years. This is major. We weighed in on it. We're getting all the data. Business administrators working with some highly professional people. It's critical that we open this closet door and address this situation with our water right now. And so going forward in the future, we'll be like every other town that's in compliance with DEP and not have to look over our shoulder and be scattered sheltered about how we deal with this. This is a really big, major move on the part of the legislative body and the administration to take care of this water. Thank you, Council President.
Yes, sir.
Council President?
Yes, sir.
I just
Mr.
want the
Begay.
council to know, in case you don't, in the last 2 weeks, right at Memorial Day weekend, we had a main break on Crane Street. We repaired that main break on an emergency basis, and 20 minutes later, we had another break on Crane Street, 20 feet from where the first break was. We had a sinkhole open up on Dodd Street, and when we went out to look at that, the cone that had been placed in the sinkhole had disappeared into the sinkhole. So we ordered that area shut, we ordered an emergency crew in, and over Memorial Day weekend, they dug that out. It was a 20 by 15-foot sinkhole caused by a broken sanitary sewer line. The sanitary sewer line was repaired, the sinkhole was repaired, and we cameraed the rest of the sewer line, and we're addressing that next. The rest of the main on Crane Street has to be repaired. If you recall, when we approved the Crane Street redevelopment agreement, we added a $250,000 RAB bond. The purpose now for that RAB bond will be the replacement of that water main, which is currently a 6-inch line and needs to be upgraded to an 8-inch line. And we're doing the engineering on that. We also repaired a catastrophic sinkhole near the catch basin across from the Super Super. Is that right, Marty? And you can see that we've had crews out all the last 2 to 3 weeks. There is a major project coming up on Vos Avenue that we'll be addressing, and we'll be back to you with a report on how we're doing that. As we sit here, we now have all of our fire hydrants loaded into a new software system that includes their latitude and longitude locations. And we're working on the same thing with all of our catch basins and all of our valves. When we repaired the Crane Street mains, we discovered some valve issues at the corner of Crane and Lincoln. We'll be addressing that. And once all this stuff is uploaded, it's a lot easier to maintain. So, for example, with the fire hydrants, we have 57 that need to be addressed immediately. And of those 57, we've prioritized 16. And then we'll be coming to you with a plan to upgrade the remaining over 500 hydrants that the city has. So the rate program that you approved, I think it was a year and a half ago in 17, if we do the metering program, which we'd be applying for grants for, and we lower the loss factor, in other words, all those buildings that aren't metered, if we meter them and we at least know what's going to them, we'll be able to reduce the percentage of loss in the system, and a lot of that will pay for itself. So within the rate structure that we have. But as we move along, we will be monitoring the rates and the capital needs. Many of the grants that we've identified, for example, the meters, we'll be applying for a grant program that is a straight, flat-out grant program. Some of the other improvements, we would go to the H2 loan program in the Environmental Infrastructure Trust, and those are 50% interest on the principal loans. So that will be part of the capital financing plan and the capital plan.
Council President,
Yes, Councilwoman Neeson.
I just want to add to what the business administrator, that the sinkhole on Dodge Street was on a newly paved street. So now we got a patch.
That's right.
Because it developed, it had just been paved, what, a couple months ago?
Yes.
And I rode through there and I was like, we got a sinkhole already? But they
So-
repaired it.
So
It
we're
now
not
fit.
paving, nor are we allowing the paving of any other streets where we don't look at all of the underlying pipes and infrastructure first, just like we're doing on the 41 roads.
Well, now that you talked about the fire hydrants and they being loaded, do you also have a timeline as to when you're gonna repair those broken ones?
The 16 are going to be repaired as a priority project. They should be done within the next 60 days. And then we'll address the remaining 39.
Does that include the ones
39?
on
No.
Washington?
41, the remaining 41. I honestly
Washington and
don't,
Cleveland?
I don't know the locations.
Because they need to be a priority because there's none over there that's
Okay.
working.
It could very well be that that is on the list, but I'll check.
Hopefully, prayerfully. The other thing, 2019 is about the improvements to various facilities. Is the police department's heating and air conditioning system repaired?
Now, these are the light improvements. This is part of a grant that we secured through PSE&G to upgrade all of our lighting to save energy. So this is our portion of the match plus our professional fees.
But
And
it
we had this money in the capital improvement fund, and this is the procedure for being able to spend it. It's energy efficient improvements to various facilities.
But it says heating, ventilating, and air conditioning systems too. In the body.
Hang on a second.
In section 2.
Come on.
That's what it says.
Marty Mays, Director of Planning and DPW. I'm sure that this is only for, it may say that, but I know that this is only for lighting.
We need to scratch it.
So we
So you need to amend it then, because
Yeah, that should be taken out.
it
Just take out,
says
we can just take out and
heating, ventilating, air conditioning
ventilating,
systems.
and air conditioning systems.
So did we get any money to look at those things, like heating and air conditioning in the police department?
As far as I know, this is all for lighting.
Are we getting any funding to do that? Or we put it in the capital budget?
That's something that we'll have to discuss during the capital budget deliberations.
Okay, all right.
Council members, any other questions on resolutions and ordinances?
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Johnson Jr. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned, 8:31 PM. This is a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Orange Township held in Council Chamber, City Hall, 29 North Day Street, Orange, New Jersey, on Wednesday, June 5th, 2019, following the conference meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call. Councilwoman Easton?
Here,
Councilman Jackson?
Here?
Councilman Johnson Jr.?
Here.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
here,
Councilwoman Williams?
Present.
Councilwoman Wooten is absent. Council President Coley?
Present.
Also present is Joyce Lanier, the City Clerk, Chris M. Hartwick, the Business Administrator, Gracia R. Montillis, City Attorney, Deputy Chief Al Mendinger, Fire Department, Marty Mays, Planning and Public Works Director, Todd Warren, Police Director, Marlon G. Towns, Legislative Research Officer, Lisette Sanchez, Record Support Technician. The requirements of NJSA 10:4-9 EDSEC, the Sunshine Law, has been met. A notice of this meeting was sent to the Star Ledger, published in the Record Transcript on July 12, 2018, posted on the bulletin board in City Hall, and filed in the office of the City Clerk. Approval of meeting minutes, April 2nd, 2019, conference and regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to adopt?
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Jackson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? April 16th, 2019, conference and regular meeting minutes. Councilman Johnson Jr. and Councilman Wooten were not in attendance and cannot vote. Is there a motion to adopt?
Move. Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilwoman Summers Johnson. Roll call. Councilwoman Easton?
yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes?
Councilman Johnson Jr. can't vote. Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten is absent. Council President Coley?
Yes.
Reports. There are no department monthly revenue collection reports, no constable reports, and no OPA reports. Council reports.
We'll start with finance. You ready?
Thank you, Council President. You ready, Mr. Hartwick? Just want to make sure he's ready. In attendance were myself, Councilman Jackson, Councilman Johnson Jr., Mr. Hartwick, City Attorney Gross Montallis, Citizen Ms. Perkins, and Clerk Quinn Fields. General items discussed. Councilman Jackson had received a code enforcement complaint. He'll get it to the BA. I discussed ordinance 1494. Council President, we've been getting a lot of calls about tickets on Oakwood Avenue, particularly by the senior building. And and I'll actually get other council members, I handed out this ordinance from 1994. But essentially what's going to happen is that this ordinance 1494 the ordinance that you just worked on, they're all gonna have to be reviewed by the city attorney and, the BA and Mr. Towns, and to see, what we need to, how we need to bring all of these parking permits together and these things that are going back and forth. But in terms of, what's just from this ordinance from 1994, we'll take a letter over to the 268, 300, and 400, and for management to let their residents know if they don't have a parking space, that they have to get a permit. Mr. Hartwick, I think you have to speak to the part about, Councilwoman Easton had done some time ago, ordinance that if you have a building with parking spaces, people charging and da-da-da-da-da. So, you want to speak to that? People
So-
that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, we're reviewing the ordinance just to make sure that it's on solid legal footing. I believe it is. The issue isn't with the ordinance. The issue is actually with building owners that are charging a rate to their tenants. The tenants decide they don't want to pay that rate, so they're not complying with the ordinance. And then the building owner goes out and rents those spaces to somebody else, which turns his parking lot into a commercial enterprise in contravention of the zoning ordinance. That's the issue. Because we have a whole bunch of buildings where they're renting spaces that they have to people that don't live in the building.
But we legislated that.
I
Remember
understand.
that a while back, so we need to get that enforced.
It's a difficult enforcement mechanism, but I think the first step is to bring in all the building owners to a meeting.
Exactly.
And that's what we'll do.
We were supposed to do that a while back, and it never happened.
So that's what all of these parking permits, buildings, so that's going to be reviewed again by Mr. Towns, city attorney and BA, and we'll have further discussion upon their findings. Mr. Hartwick on the Washington, the fire station at Washington.
Marty, what was the date that we closed the firehouse? Do you remember? Okay. It was within the last 2.5 months. We officially closed the firehouse on an emergency basis because of an environmental contamination issue. The law required us to respond immediately, which we did. There was an oil tank leak, an underground oil tank leak that came up into the basement of the building through a sewer backup. The remediation company was called out immediately to do an assessment. Contamination was not contained on our property alone. And as a result, because of the infiltration into the building and the fumes associated with that and the sewer backup, the building has been closed. There is a plan in our possession to do the remediation, and we're having internal discussions about whether or not we actually pull the trigger on that plan or demolish the building. The reason that that's part of the discussion is that in order to remediate, we have to lift the building up. And, the cost associated with lifting the building up and remediating the property exceeds the value of the building and the land combined. So there is a less expensive methodology that can be used to remediate the land under our environmental responsibility. And we're having internal discussions about which way to proceed. And I'll report back to the council when we've made a decision.
And then finally.
Council President, excuse me a second, while you're
Yes,
on that.
Councilwoman
Can you
Eason.
have our business administrator just assure the residents, there's a rumor on the street that that building is being sold, and you're gonna put housing on it. So we need to just reassure those residents, we are not selling the firehouse. It will reopen at some point. We just need to figure out how to fix it.
Okay, well, I can assure the residents that the building's not going to be sold for housing. I can't say that the building will be reopened yet until we get to a point where we know what the options are.
But I said at some point, we do plan to open the building, reopen it at this time.
What we plan to do is to either reopen the building or replace it in kind on that side of the town. The site itself presents some challenges for fire use, but in any event, the director and the professionals who run the fire department have given me their written assessment that a firehouse needs to be located on that side of town because of the emergency calls that we get from most of the senior buildings. And so we're acutely aware of that. We are evaluating other properties as we go through this remediation process, because if we're spending this kind of money, we need to end up with a building that actually works for the needs of the fire department and the fire service and the citizens. So I can go so far, Councilwoman, as to say that we're not selling the property, we're going to remediate the property, and we're going to have a firehouse on that side of town.
I have a question for you. No, I guess, neighboring properties that you know of have been affected by this?
I can't answer that question.
Got it. All right. We talk about it later.
Moving on to number 4, can you speak to the retirees, the Medicare reimbursements?
So, you'll recall a few meetings ago, we had you adopt a resolution which was available for the city to do as a cost savings measure since 2009, when we no longer participated in Chapter 88. And a number of, the retirees have received their notifications about the city's action. So you may have gotten approached by retirees, or you may have gotten a phone call. But those who were being written checks twice a year for reimbursement of Medicare costs are no longer receiving those checks from the city as a result of our change of policy, which has been available to us since 2009. And because we no longer are procuring our insurance through the state health benefits plan. So we no longer have the obligation to reimburse the Medicare component, and we're not.
We discussed that the citywide cleanup was a success. We would like to suggest that we focus more on cleaning Main Street and continue doing scattered site projects. Councilman Jackson stated that he would like to see a year-round cleanup implemented. And Mr. Hartwick also stated this would be a great opportunity for Public Works to galvanize the community, to get involved into assisting with cleaning up the community. And then just to make an announcement while we're here that Orange and East Orange both won their games, and they'll meet in Roselle Saturday. So everybody, all roads should lead to Roselle. Mr. Hartwick, can you speak about the budget? This Saturday, we're starting our budget hearings, and the departments being heard are police, fire, and finance, starting promptly at 9 a.m. Councilman Johnson Jr. just talked briefly about the temporary appropriation that's on for tonight, and that we shall see no more appropriations in this calendar year. And if you would just give us an update on everything
Well,
else.
we may or may not.
Okay.
That's the honest answer. We had, our budget team met with the director of the Division of Local Government
Today.
Yesterday in Trenton, along with the staff member who is responsible for Orange's budget. They had some questions about the AFS. We told them that we would address those questions. There are some open questions regarding some of the emergency appropriations. We also indicated that we would address those questions. We agreed with the director that we would submit our application in a timely manner to be placed on the July agenda, but there is no commitment from the division that it will actually be heard in July. If it is heard in July and we have action, then there would be no further need for a temporary appropriation. If it gets pushed to August, then there would be a need. And we'll address that when we know whether or not the division's going to have the public hearing in July or whether it gets pushed to August. We had a short list of items that we had to address. We're working to address those items with the division. Those items don't change any of the budget numbers. One of them is a procedural issue, and we'll figure out the best way to deal with that, and if we have to, we'll put a resolution before the council at the appropriate time. All in all, it was a very good meeting, and we will be getting some assistance from the division regarding an analysis of our collective bargaining agreements in anticipation of all of those agreements coming to an end at some point in 2020. There are specific financial concerns that the state has with regard to certain of those agreements, and they want to make sure that we're attempting to address those in the collective negotiation process. And that's not a surprise to anybody. Last year I did a pie chart. I'm going to give you one again this year to show you where the money in the budget goes. And you know, their very direct statement is we need to get a handle on the salary and wage components under the collective bargaining agreements, particularly in public safety. So, and by public safety, they include fire and police. So, you know, we're aware of that, and we welcome any suggestions, assistance, review that the state can give us with regard to those contracts. So, but all in all, it was a very positive meeting, and I think that the budget that you have before you, as introduced, pending whatever revisions you make, will be very close to the budget that gets adopted.
Council President.
Yes, Councilman
While I'm
Johnson.
listening to the BA, bring us up to date on what's happening in Trenton. I'm curious, is there any conflict arising out of the Trenton board member and our employee serving in finance? Are we running into any problem? I don't want to start calling names and yada yada, but you know what I'm talking about. Do you sense any conflict?
First, I should be very clear that we have an agreement with the local finance board, and that agreement is that that employee doesn't work on any of those issues. And on the local finance board, he doesn't participate in any of those issues. So as long as there's a complete recusal, there can't be a conflict. And that's all I'm going to say at this point.
You answered my question. Thank you, Council President.
You're quite welcome.
I did, before I go on, just had a question about the budget. You said that at the local finance board, they said that they had the collective bargaining agreements. And then I guess that, you know, we, like, if you will, volleyball back to them and saying that one of the things is that when you have young people start, you know, 25 years comes quick. And then they're, you know, it's either leaving and they still don't have their medical, you know, because like agencies in New York, it's 25 out, you get your medical. The issue is here, you can come in at 20, be 45 and 20, and then, but you can leave, but you won't have your medical. So are they looking at anything that the state themselves can do, or like whether it be buyouts or anything like that?
We asked some specific questions about employees who have both time and age, who perhaps need an incentive to actually pull the trigger on retirement.
Right.
They're going to work with us on some of those issues. But their focus on the collective bargaining agreements has to do with concisely put, and this doesn't come as any surprise to any of the union people because I've already discussed some of this with them, has to do with schedule, because schedule tends to affect manpower and cost. It has to do with terminal leave, longevity, and retaining both contractual increases, step increases, or I should say, retaining all contractual increase, step increases, and longevity. Those are the areas that they're primarily focused on. And then, they drill down into smaller issues that are contained within the collective bargaining agreements that affect cost in any of those areas. So, again, nothing that's really a surprise. A lot of these contract provisions are old, and they have garnered the state's attention.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the agenda, 12/2019, committee recommends moving forward. 21, the same, but did we get the, do we know where we are with the list of handicap spaces?
We won't have it until probably the beginning of July.
22, 23, committee recommends moving forward. 25, did we get the letter to attach to 25?
We can't locate the letter, so I called the state and asked them to send me another copy.
Okay.
Thanks.
26.
I just located the letter. I'll get a copy tomorrow.
26, you said you're going to postpone or withdraw?
Postpone.
Postpone, 26 is postponed. 27, 28, and 29, recommend moving forward. Resolution 182 is to be postponed, I think you just said as well, right?
Correct.
182 is to be postponed. 184, recommend moving forward. 194, 195, 196, 197, 198, 199, 200, 201, 202, 203, 204, 205 is the bill, recommend moving forward. You mentioned last night that the bill list may be amended. Is that the case?
No.
Okay, so 206, recommend moving forward. 206, the city attorney was supposed to address some things. I know we talked at length about 207. Was it addressed when you were talking about it earlier during the,
He's working on the provisions to put in the 6 reports into the resolution.
okay,
That's
so
what I said,
everything was discussed already? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Council President.
You're quite welcome. Anything from planning?
No. And nothing from ABC.
I didn't quite understand. You said no?
No.
Okay, thanks. Anything from the library?
Oh, Council President.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Councilwoman Williams?
That's Chris Hartwick's inside joke that's making us laugh. Oh, I'm sorry.
Straight face.
Going back to the Finance Committee report, the library budget, did you have any updates on that? I'm sorry.
I met with the library director. They'll be prepared to present at the scheduled time, and I have another meeting with them coming up. Their budget request is very similar to prior requests, but they're in a much different place than they were a year ago. It was a much more organized presentation in my office, and I think that we will have no issues. We're still going to have to address some of the legacy issues, perhaps with a special account like we did last year.
Okay, thank you, Council.
Thank you, sir. Anything from housing?
As, council,
Yeah,
that they're out.
They're
at
out of
seminar.
town, right, and they'll come back next meeting. Ms. Gordon, anything from the Public Works
I'm
Committee?
sorry, Council President, did want to
Yes.
say that Joanne Krishepi retired, and she appreciates the council's acknowledgement, and we were there to attend last, 2 Wednesdays ago, her retirement event, and she just,
Oh, she had it already?
yeah, she wanted
Okay.
us to extend her thanks for our resolution.
Okay, wonderful. Anything from the police department? Good evening, how are you?
I used to skip this late, but here I go. Captain Vincent Vidiello, Orange Police Department, Chief Law Enforcement Officer on behalf of Director Todd Warren. Just want to just mention one of our officers who's doing an exemplary job at the school. Our SRO, our School Resource Officer, Jared Adams, just received from the Board of Education the Employee of the Month for his job that he's doing with the
Well done, well done, well done.
so we're very happy and proud about that.
I want to stick a pin in that so that the council's aware that Officer Adams came here on an intergovernmental transfer at the suggestion of Captain Vidiello and Director Warren. And it was a coming home for him because he's Orange born and bred.
Sterling Avenue.
Sterling Avenue.
Correct. And this is a great development. We worked with the school district to put a resource officer over there with Councilwoman Eason, and it's working out very well.
And
Well done, well done.
he's an officer of immense character, and he takes it personally, working with these students and helping them out and doing what he needs to do for them. So
And they
we're very
love him.
proud of him. We're very proud of him.
And they love him.
Bring a little love to it.
Yep.
And just one other thing I wanted to mention is that on June 14th, we'll be having our second annual basketball game against the kids of Haywood Avenue School. It's from 3 to 5:30. So, you know, anyone who wants to attend, we welcome you there. It's a really fun day. The kids enjoy it, and it's a great time
At Haywood?
at Haywood.
Repeat the date, please.
June 14th, 3 to 5:30.
June the 14th.
Yes. I believe that's a Friday.
At Central, right?
Haywood.
Haywood.
Yes. No, Oakwood, I'm sorry.
Oakwood.
Oh, my gosh, Oakwood. Oakwood.
Oakwood
I'm
Avenue
tired.
School.
Okay, 6:14.
15-hour day.
At
6:14, 3:30 at Oakwood. June 14th,
June 14th, 3 to 5:30.
3 to 5.
Oakwood.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Hey, Council President.
Councilman Johnson?
Since we have the Chief Law Enforcement Officer here today, I definitely have a question.
All right, Cleo.
Captain Vinny, we got the Dog Days of Summer coming in front of us. I'm quite sure you're the student enough to been running our departments for a number of years that you got a plan in action. You don't have to go into depth, but are we ready for the hot Dog Days of Summer?
We are
and all?
ready. We already implemented part of our plan 2 weeks ago. It's the CRAVE initiative, and we were out there on a Wednesday, and, you know, we were hitting corners, doing quality of life issues, narcotics issues, you see, no issue is too small for us to go after. It's like if you ever heard of the broken window theory, they leave one broken window, whole neighborhoods will eventually go down. So we do quality of life issues, even spitting on the sidewalk, littering, blocking passageways. So we're enforcing everything we possibly can in order to curtail things that may go wrong in the summer, which we hope we're going to have a really good summer. And these initiatives will be going on a daily basis. And also, we're getting, Gerard, what's the date of the graduation? June 13th. We're having 9 officers graduate from the police academy, and we're going to dedicate 5 of them to walking posts throughout the city. Some of our hot spots, along with our bike squad. So we're going to be out there, and we're going to be doing what we need to do.
Okay, thank you, Council President.
Council President.
Yes, Councilwoman
To you from
Eason.
Captain, I knew it was something I needed. Can I get your support? You know, in Cleveland and Washington, we put this big sign up that says, "Stop here on red."
Yes.
Could we put a detail out there maybe once or twice a week for a while? Because people are blocking Cleveland Street
Absolutely.
all the time. I
Absolutely.
need some cops out there giving out some tickets because I can't come around from Washington, coming in my street, because of the cops. They don't even pay that stop, and that sign is big. I mean, it's big. So we just need to have a cop there and start to write some tickets.
We will handle it. A a little bit of
Okay.
enforcement goes a long way with compliance.
I mean,
And
once
like-
they see you guys doing that, maybe
course.
they'll get a message.
And then the other issues we have, just contact us, reach out. There's no issue too small, like at the meeting we had. We want to hear everyone's concerns, and we want to work with the community.
I just have, any other,
Council President,
yes.
I'm sorry
Councilwoman.
for being late. I had a couple of flight delays and cancellations, but I'm here. I just want to say thank you because I pulled up on my block and there's a police officer. They have a car stopped, and I was told by one of my neighbors that their car is stopping on our block. Someone gets out, think they're going up to buy drugs, they get back in the car and they take off, and this has been happening. So apparently someone called a night and y'all are there, so I just want to say thank you
We
from the
appreciate it.
people on block, Hampton Terrace.
We appreciate it.
And then in addition to that, Council President may have already spoken to you about it, I don't know. From time to time, traffic is, rerouted off of
Detour
South
over
Harris.
South
You
Harrison
spoke to him
Street.
already?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Not to him, but to other
I
people.
spoke to you about it.
You did.
And, yeah, we sent an officer over there.
You did.
A lot of times, what should happen is, East Orange should contact us to let
Okay.
us know that there's gonna be some type of construction going on, and it's gonna build up into our city.
Okay.
This way, we could have somebody there before it becomes an issue.
Okay, okay.
And we'll work on that.
Okay.
I called him, and we spoke about that.
No, I just want to say thank you for doing that.
We appreciate it, and we really enjoy the gratitude and the thanks. We appreciate it. Because the guys out there are really doing a really good job, and they're working hard. And every little bit of appreciation they get goes a long way towards their morale.
Well, thank you.
I just have one. I think it's more like an academic issue. But the old Kerry Coley would handle it the old Orange way. But I think we live in different times. These ATVs, they ride around and packs like wild animals, just disobeying traffic signals, holding up traffic, just riding down the sidewalk, as if they're, in a circus. Like I said, the old me would have just used the police car and just, crash into them, just to stop it. But I don't know, but we may have to resort back to that because I know we can't, but when you look at the public safety that they present, I don't know what other way to combat that type of behavior.
I agree with you, and what we're gonna do, and we were discussing this still, we're gonna put a detail out specifically for that. And unmarked cars, and in certain areas where we know they are, and take care of the situation that way. And we go back a long way.
Right.
You know how I would've handled
Right.
it back.
But I want to say this to I want to say this to the governing body that this is a very, very serious issue because they do ride through red lights, stop signs, and it could be someone in this council chamber or looking at us right now who could wind up being a victim of their craziness.
They have no regard for the
At all.
safety of others.
So, and this is what I'm saying, so the council members, if our officers, have to resort to some level of force to combat these folks, we have to support them.
Well, we will do everything in our power by the law
Thank you.
to curtail the situation and to make
Key
streets
word,
safe.
by the law.
By the law.
Because they want to be chased.
Council
Professionally, legally.
But Council President, just as you piggyback on, is there, it just, maybe the warm weather, but I was wondering, it's just the warm weather because I thought maybe something in the law has changed because it seems to be, you might have seen that at a certain time at night, but now you just see them driving around like there's no problem. So are there, so what's, the
So-
law,
It's warm weather, it's nice out, they have
So-
their vehicles, they want to drive them.
And
But
and
it's
this is
not-
what I'm saying,
Can't.
something is going to happen.
Yes.
It's just, we don't know when and how bad it is, going to happen, but I feel that we need to try and, get out in front of this. I'm all in favor. using trucks to knock them over. I mean, that's just me.
Disclaimer, he
That's
said
okay.
that, Jamie Sunshine.
Listen, we will do everything in our power.
I can't.
Private conversation next time.
Where's our attorney? That's why you talking, because the attorney not sitting here.
Yeah,
No
Listen,
more.
No, we will do everything in our power legally, lawfully,
That's right.
to curtail the situation, because you know what? Our first and foremost priority is the safety
Of the people.
of the residents of the Orange.
got it.
And you know what? That is, I take that personally.
I know you
Protect
do.
the city.
All right, and I'll leave it right there.
Please.
Council President,
Anything else?
where did the minister administrator go? He left?
No, he stepped off.
Yeah, because also I want to know, maybe we can put a speed limit on Main Street. Some speed limit signs
So speed limit signs, you said?
on Main Street, because they flopping down Main Street like it's a throughway. I was gonna suggest that, so we should drive maybe 25 miles an hour from Main, from like, North Park all the way up
If you
to
see no
I.
sign, the speed limit's supposed to be 25.
Yeah,
So,
Okay.
it's, but, yeah, we're gonna have these details out, and it's gonna be a nice summer.
Thank you, sir.
There you go.
and just so you know, our business administrator has agreed to buy you another, what were we talking about earlier?
And alcohol- Yes,
Breathalyzer.
breathalyzer, alcohol, yes.
He's waiting for the new one. See, he's coming in now. Buy them another breathalyzer. A breathalyzer.
Is that true?
That's true. So make sure we hold him to that.
Wednesday night, okay.
Freddie, could I ask one more question? Have we purchased the uniforms for the crossing guards? Are they ordered?
They're ordered, yes. Sizes have been taken, they've been sent down there. However, because at the end of the school year, we're gonna wait until August to send them down. We're gonna send out letters, and they can get their uniforms.
So what do they do from now to then? What they,
They've been in this situation for the longest time right now, because we have a really high turnover rate with our crossing guards. So I don't wanna give them 4 uniforms or how many, and then they don't come back to work in September. So we'll wait until August until we have a concrete proof that they're coming back.
you added some additional ones, but still
Yes,
short.
we are.
And could you also look into maybe getting them some blinking stop signs?
Yeah, we were looking into that, the stop signs with the lights on it.
So maybe we can have them by August too?
Listen. If you give me an open checkbook,
You find them, and we'll lean on Hardwick to find the money to buy them.
that's all I need.
Okay.
I could submit it, but we need the money
Find
in
them,
order to purchase them.
find them.
Cap, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Fire department, any updates?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. How you
Good
Deputy
evening.
Chief Almendinger, how you doing?
Good, and you?
Good. On May 10th, we had the 18 recruits graduate from the Fire Academy. Between May 10th and May 27th, they spent their time upstairs, going over the rules and regs, going over the policies of the fire department. And then they also went out and did a smoke detector inspection on, I think it was May 18th, in the North Ward. On May 27th, they were divided into 2 groups of 5 and 2 groups of 4 and put into their shifts. And they are currently riding their 24-hour shifts now and continuing to make progress in training. That's pretty much all I have.
Council President,
Yes, Councilwoman.
I'm just confused at how we have one of the largest classes graduate, first African-American female captain, and yet neither one of our local papers have it in there. This is what I'm talking about when I say that great things are going on in the city, and I waited patiently. I read each paper to see it, and this is a prime example of Orange being excluded from our local papers when something as positive as this is happening in our city. The largest class and
Ever.
first African-American captain, and it is found nowhere in our local papers. I just wanted that on the record.
I absolutely agree with you.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
And you took
And to
good pictures too.
piggyback on that,
No, I was in the pictures.
Councilwoman
I got
Summers.
promoted too. I got promoted too that day. I'm in those pictures.
That's right.
the Orange Elks has its first African-American exalted ruler.
Oh, wow.
So we do have news that has not been publicized.
On Memorial Day.
He's the grand poobah. Poobah.
Okay.
Poobah.
So,
Also, wow. Councilman Williams also reminded me that also on Memorial Day, the fire department went around and assisted in hanging the memorial wreaths throughout the different parks in the city.
and if I may add, also on Orange Cleanup Day, the fire department was filling bags of trash like the rest of us that were out there working very hard. Really appreciate their support.
Well, that's, the director definitely stresses that he wants us to get out in the
Yes.
community as much as we possibly can.
Yes.
So I got to give him that.
Wonderful.
And you were in a parade, y'all had a lot
Yeah, we
going
do
on.
we try to do
Yeah, you did
everything,
a parade,
so.
that's right.
All right?
Thank
All right,
you.
you all have a good night, okay?
Thank you, you too.
All right, Deputy Chief.
Communications and petitions, there were none received. Citizen comments. Pursuant to Section 4-10 of the Code of the City of Orange Township, each person addressing the council shall step up to the microphone, shall give his or her name and address in an audible tone for the record, and unless further time is granted by the presiding officer, shall limit his or her address to 5 minutes. The public is expected to conduct themselves in a proper manner. Any derogatory, abusive, or threatening statements will not be permitted. The chair will immediately rule such conduct out of order and terminate any further comments.
Jeff Bell?
Good evening, my name is Jeffrey Feld, local businessman, attorney, and mortgagee, whose local business address is 268 Main Street, Orange, New Jersey. As my custom, I have delivered a heads-up memo to the various people having questions and comments. When Mr. Webster was here, it triggered a memory. Today is the 12th anniversary of my first appearance before the City Council, and it involved Mr. Webster, who was the council for the redevelopment of the Orange housing, the abandoned Orange Hospital, and also we're still talking about water issues because the water issues have impacted everything. As to the agenda, we're talking about the calendar year 2019 budget process, and as of I think yesterday, the budget, the user-friendly budget financial statement had not yet been posted on the city's public website. Councilperson Williams, you misstated the record. Saturday, yes, there is a budget hearing, but there was a budget hearing scheduled earlier that was canceled, and there was questions about whether you gave public notice, and I think the public needs to know that. And the amended dates should be posted, and people should be explained how the council scheduled a hearing without giving public notice of that by publishing in a newspaper. As to the water sewer utility, I applaud the savings by the bulk purchase agreement. However, if you look at the caption, it sort of doesn't indicate. It says you're negotiating. If you're approving the contract, just say you're approving the contract. Because you read the caption, you can't appreciate that. It's the fourth appropriation, emergency appropriation. At the last one, or 2 ones ago, we need to have a chart. If we can trace all the line items, what we've spent, that would help everyone trace the amount of monies. As to the rescission of the pilot agreements, I will get you a copy of the letter regarding Lincoln Court where they did not get the funding. However, last Thursday and Friday, 2 opinions came out of the appellate division. One involves Orange. For some reason, the appellate division did not send a copy of that opinion to Orange Council. I had to supply it to them and to this BA. But if you look at those 2 opinions, there's questions whether the HMFA long-term tax exemption survived the enactment of the long-term tax exemption law. Because that ties into the Lincoln Court rescission one, that there's really more of a substantive legal issue as whether you can grant the long-term tax exemption law exemption again anymore under the HMFA, and I just ask you to read those opinions. I think we need clarification, because at the last meeting you approved a submission of an application to the local finance board. I made 2 OPRA requests. I made an OPRA request to the city, and I made an OPRA request to the local finance board, and neither of them have given me an application. So I think we need to have confirmation whether an application has been filed and whether Orange will be on the agenda this coming Wednesday, or that's going to be in July. Also, read the newspapers. On Saturday, there was an incredible op-ed letter regarding Elizabeth and talking about how bad their city councils are and how they mistreat their citizens. Also today, there was an article in the Star Ledger
regarding a judge basically entered an order to show cause to hold Jersey City in contempt for not complying with Oprah. I just throw that out to you because there's one of the things I gave you in your packet today, last night, was an email that I got. It was an email from our city attorney to the city clerk not to give me documents regarding his stipends as regarding the water utilities. Now, we hear the Mueller report, Volume 2, obstruction of justice. We're getting pretty close there when we're told that we can't get documents pursuant to Oprah, and especially when your city attorney, who's supposed to make sure you comply with the law, indicates and writes to the city clerk not to produce documents to me. And after it raises issues because of what we heard before, and I applaud the BA talking about what we had to do to bring our utilities in compliance, capital. But the question is, this didn't happen overnight. How much of this occurred under the watch of someone that sits in that corner who's not here right now? Again, I'm asking for things about pilots. I wish Mr. Mapp is he not here? I don't know why he's not here, but we heard about, like, Mr. Mapp should not be involved in things that involve our budget or from the local finance board. I don't know how you do that. He needs to be here. I need to have information. There was a bond anticipation note closing regarding to Bank of America. I still have not received the disbursement of how those bond proceeds were dispersed. That goes through Mr. Mapp. Again, I told you about the two opinions. You need to read them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fell.
Thank you.
Mr. Derek Henry signed a book, but he had to leave. All right? Madam Clerk, you said.
Is there a motion to close citizen comments?
Motion. Move.
Motion by Councilman Johnson Jr., second by Councilwoman Williams. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Council comments.
Council President?
Yes, Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Okay, first I would like to thank Councilwoman Wooten for hosting the South Ward Community Meeting. The residents were pleased. Many of them called me and thanked me for not canceling it, and I just thank her for hosting it. Unfortunately, I have to cancel the June meeting because of there's a budget hearing on that day. I would reschedule, but June seems kind of crazy. So I just would like to thank all of the residents that consistently attended, also district leaders and department heads and other council members. I think that the meetings were effective. I think that residents felt like they could touch the directors, and a lot of problems were solved in those meetings, and residents didn't have to wait for a council meeting to get answers to some of their questions. Thank you to BA Chris for setting up a meeting with myself and the county and Marty Mays for me to discuss my concerns with Orange Park. A lot of times we sit in these meetings and you may vent about something, but if you don't see anything happen after you're venting, then that's all you're doing. But I was able to sit with them, and actually we met in the park, so we were able to kind of walk through, look at it. They got mad at me because I kept comparing it to Branchbrook Park, but I'm in Branchbrook Park 3 to 4 times a week, and they're both county parks, and they assured me that they would be posting a sign when they have like a bathroom attendant. They'll be updating the flowers. I told him those green flowers, you know, whatever they are, bushes, but it's important because that's a stop, and it's like an entrance into Orange, an exit into out of Orange, or a meeting in East Orange. It meets, especially near the Exxon, that area. So we talked about that. We talked about so many trees that need to come down that we were literally standing near. So it was a really good meeting, and I thank you for that. I'm very happy I signed up my 2 sons and my goddaughter for the camp, the summer camp for the city. This year they partnered up with the East Orange Y and the South Orange Y. I thought that was very smart. My sons have attended Y camps before, but it's important because the trips are included in different things and academics, so our kids don't fall behind during the summer. I caught the early bird, which is $80 a week, but now it's $100 a week. which is still for camps is reasonable, and they accept program for parent. So I just suggest that our parents in the city keep our kids engaged. I hate to see kids just running around the park. That's when we have a lot of problems. We do have people in the park to watch them, but it's better for them to be in a structured camp environment so they don't lose any of their academics. And yesterday, Newark Public Schools, I was off yesterday because in celebration of the Eid. So for our Muslim residents, happy Eid. And we were off yesterday because a group of teachers and citizens in Newark petitioned the superintendent and the schools for us to be off. So as a history teacher, it was a really good lesson to my students that, like, if you want something done, you petition for it, and we followed it. And it was just great for those Muslim students to be able to be off and it not be counted against them. So I believe that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Williams?
Thank you, Council President. So again, to start off, the citywide cleanup was a success. I know, did you call the Public Works Committee earlier, sir?
Say again?
Did you call the Public Works Committee earlier?
I did.
Okay. It was a good success, and one of the things, Councilman Jackson actually highlighted the firemen out there, but I want to give a big shout out to the Orange Rec Pal team. The football players were out there in tremendous numbers, and they were participating, and they had a game that afternoon. They had a lot of fun, and for those who didn't know, this was an East Orange citywide cleanup. One of the projects that we worked on together was a house right at the corner of Elm and Hilliard Street, and that was a project that came as a result of a citizen coming here asking us, even though that house is in East Orange, something has to be done, and they were working on a project. So again, thank you to Coach Aki and Coach June for having the players out there, and congratulations, they won that evening. They will again be meeting up with East Orange again for the championship game, and the game will be in Roselle. And I'm gonna ask that the clerk and Mr. Hartwick see that the information about the game this Saturday is posted on both websites. I also wanted to, at Lincoln Avenue School, one of the things that we got to do on the tour while we were going around and cleaning up the city, that there's an urban garden. Ms. Spates, Lenora Spates, worked on a project, received a grant. I believe it's from Whole Foods to do an urban garden, which she did from recycled products. It was a beautiful garden. If you get a chance, it's on Lincoln Avenue School property, closer to, which is on Jackson Street, but closer to Lincoln Avenue. So please, by all means, stop by. I hope that she would be here tonight to speak on it, but we have to reach out so she can tell what she did and what her goal is. I know the people in the community are going to be able to decide collectively as to what to do with the products, and it's anywhere from plants to vegetables in the garden. Orange Week started on Monday, so don't forget that there will be a block party on Main Street between Essex and Cleveland. Come out, enjoy the festivities and vendors, and see what the students in Orange are going to do. And I believe it starts at 12 noon. I don't have the flyer in front of me. Friday is Mr. Miller from our school district is doing an observance of National Gun Violence Awareness, and we're going to meet on the steps at 3 o'clock of Orange Preparatory Academy, and he's asking that everybody wears all orange. Yesterday was an election day, and I can't say enough that, and everybody else says that elections have consequences. Elections, people study how involved our citizens are in terms of how many people do you have registered to registered to vote versus those who do vote. So looking at the outcome yesterday, we have approximately 17,600 voters. And in the city of Orange, of those amount of voters, 686 persons cast a vote. I would just encourage people to get involved, get engaged, and this is how you elect your leadership, people who will make determination about your garbage, anywhere from your garbage to grant funds that come down, funding that comes down for streets and things like that. And if we're not being mindful and being a participant in this process, we're gonna have to deal with the results that we get. The next voting will be in November for our general election, and hoping that the citizens of Orange will show up more. The last time that we had a great outcome on voting was in the 2008 and 2012 election. So please come out and vote from anywhere from the dog catcher all the way up to your federal elections. And also, we have a new superintendent of schools, correct, Mr. Hartwick?
Yes.
His name is Mr. Fitzhugh, and I hope, okay, his name is Dr. Fitzhugh. And I'm going to, I know he starts on July 1st, and if we could reach, Ms. Lanier, if we could reach out to the new superintendent of schools, Dr. Fitzhugh, and just invite him to come. And that's it. Just the last thing, is July 1st for the skateboard park? Are we on point?
Marty?
Marty Mears, Director of Planning and Development. I haven't really given it a date. I just got the final plans in yesterday, so I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe give me, what I plan on doing is finalizing the plans over the next week. But the good thing is, all of the stuff that we talked about at those meetings has all been incorporated. The two primary things was the increase in the amount of cameras and the amount of coverage, not only at the skate park, but also at the regular park. And the other one was the 15 feet security fence along the side of
So
the
the people who have
homeowners.
the white fence along their side, along where it abuts the residential homes?
Right.
Okay.
So those were the two big things.
No, the biggest thing is that people are walking around with skateboards. When is that park gonna open?
I know. And
No, they standing outside.
I'm trying, but it's a really, really nice design. And the good thing is that, we use various grant funds to do this, and we have a nice little bit of money left just to be able to do it. So it should be soon.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Council President.
You're quite welcome. Councilwoman Wooten?
Council President. First, I want to say thank you to Councilwoman Summers Johnson for allowing me to have her community meeting. I think about 2 weeks ago. It was a very nice bunch of residents, and there are a lot of topics that go on, but there are a lot of answers to those topics and questions that go on in that meeting. Secondly, it is National Cataracts Month. So if you are a senior or someone who may have cataracts, you need to get your eye exams. Thirdly, I want to say Happy Pride Month to people. Fourthly, I want to talk about the Public Works Committee. I attended the Public Works Committee on last week. We had a really good meeting. There are a lot of things that we're interested in doing, and we're going to be meeting up with the administration and the city attorney to find out a couple of things. Very interesting meeting, very interesting group of people, and I look forward to working with them. Fifthly, let's see, I have a garden tour that's going on. I put it out on Facebook. I'll be sending the flyer out via Constant Contacts. And I was told when I called one of the constituents on Sunday that this was something that Vivian Gant used to do years ago. So she was very excited about it. So even with putting it on Facebook, I asked for people to email me pictures of their gardens. And I've already started to receive pictures of the garden. So I think that's going to be something fun to show a little bit of Orange pride. And the last thing I have is the Environmental Club. So my granddaughter is graduating in about 9 days. So after 9 days, we're going to get it up and running. I want to say thank you to the seniors in 340 who reached out to me, and hopefully she'll be getting to meet with them soon, as well as the Public Works Committee. And And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you much. Councilwoman Eason.
Let me just say, I asked a lot of my questions already and got the answers, but one of the things I want to do publicly tonight is to say thank you to our outgoing interim superintendent, Ronald Lee, who has done a phenomenal job for the city of Orange, for the Orange School District. I mean, he has brought in programs, the Scholars Program, the STEM School. I mean, he has invested in a lot of partnerships. I attended an all-day conference with them on May the 23rd called the STEM Conference down by Doremus Avenue. You know, they're renovating that area. So you should go down and take a look sometime where the old train stations, and it was a beautiful building with a rooftop. And the guy that spoke was from P-Tech in New York. And you should Google that sometime to see what P-Tech is all about, because that's one of the programs we're trying to get implemented in the Orange School District. It was a phenomenal conference. We got a lot of information, and it was some information that we could use at our STEM school. So for you, Mr. Lee, I thank you for your commitment to the students of Orange, for your commitment to improve the education system, and I'll be at the next meeting to make sure that I also thank you in person. The other thing is, I wasn't part of the citywide cleanup, but to me, the citywide cleanup is every day of the year. So as the saying it goes, you gotta clean up your house before you could clean up somebody else's. So I did my block. We cut like 3 lawns, we picked up all the paper. And in the future, if we're gonna do a citywide cleanup, we have a lot of landscapers in this city. And if you ride around, even though you did the cleanup, there's so much grass that needs to be cut from the senior citizens, from the vacant lots, that we should engage some of them to donate some of their service to cut grasses on some of those lawns. Because nothing looks better than a block with nice, freshly cut grass and no paper. So we might want to do that. But I also have a mission or request to our legislative research officer. So, Mr. Towns, by the next meeting, unfortunately, our finance committee has involved into something besides finance. And I just heard all of those comments tonight, and I don't know why that was part of a finance committee meeting and why those things were brought in a finance committee, because it's supposed to be dealing with finances. So by the next meeting or even before, I want you to do some research to see what the function of that committee is and what it should be geared toward, so that we are all on board and making sure, because a lot of the things that are said should have been said during council comments. I mean, we wasted a lot of time on that, so I want to see what their mission is. You might want to, and I will also be doing my own research, but I want to see what you come back with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Jackson.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to reiterate a little bit about the Orange cleanup. I did mention the fire department, and Councilwoman Williams mentioned PAL, but also the citizens that were out there. Certainly, Ms. Gordon was out there working very hard with us, and Mayor Warren was out there getting dirty too, if y'all didn't know. But also the Department of Public Works was really organized and moving us around the city from place to place. And I really appreciate the hard work of the men who are, manning the lawn mowers and the weed whackers and those things and for the Department of Public Works. So thanks to them as well. Orange looks better because of our efforts on Saturday. That's basically it. Thanks so much, everybody.
Council President, I guess I'm next, huh?
Yes, Councilman Johnson.
I want to be brief, but there's 2 ladies that I do want to recognize. I had an opportunity to stop in Lincoln Avenue School Garden presentation and meet some of the students, but actually met the person with the green thumb. Ms. Janora Spatz is a West Ward, District 4 resident, one of my neighbors. I know she's really active in recreation in the schools and working for the city. the creation that she spearheaded over at the Lincoln School is just absolutely phenomenal. I had to drive the wife past there the other day. She couldn't believe what I was telling her, man. But the ability to teach children through nature is phenomenal. I don't even know if that's what was the purpose behind it, but I can see in the eyes of the students that were coming through there that they were participating in something that was a really amazing. And it was the vision of this young lady, Miss Janora Spatz, to bring this to our town. Spates. Well, you know, I try to get it together. But she if she's watching tonight, she knows what's on my heart and what's in my head. But kudos to her, and kudos to the tandem of new principals over there at Lincoln Avenue School, and all the support that she has over there to pull this off. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Council President, real quick before
Yes,
you go.
Councilwoman Williams.
You know what, the citywide cleanup was tremendous, a joint effort, and when you have so many people participating and you start calling names, you always forget names. But the morning starts out with Mr. Ray Winfield, and he has that, from making sure that the doors are open to making sure that the people are participating, get a bite to eat, to go out there. So thank him and coordinating the projects that we were going to work on. So thank Mr. Wingfield for that. And also our police who got us around town, escorting us, making sure that when we out in the middle of the street that we don't get hit, because you have good intentions, but when you're back and forth in the middle of the street and you have all these people doing projects, they're there to protect us. So thank you to Mr. Wingfield and to the Orange Police as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna.
And his whole team, it was the whole team, it was just with Mr. Winfield, Ellie, and all of them. Thank you.
Okay. I'll be quick, but I have a few comments, questions for the BA. A few, I guess, months back, you had started looking at how we can transition using, transition from using the gas card to some other means of getting fuel.
Yep. You want a report?
If you have one, absolutely.
Marty? So I'll preface this report by saying that we'll be coming to you with a capital ordinance to implement this solution, but this solution will save us considerable dollars on an annual basis.
Marty Mears, Director of Planning and DPW. BA is absolutely right. We finalized everything, have the plans. We're just going to put it on the capital ordinance and bring it before you guys.
So basically, the solution that we've settled on is we're going to install our own tanks above ground at the DPW facility.
Above ground?
Above ground.
Like I suggested?
Yes.
Okay.
They will be secured with constructed concrete bollards, security cameras. Access cards will be issued to authorized employees, which are PIN activated, so we'll know exactly through the electronic system and monitoring system who's getting gas. We estimate that right now we're spending somewhere between $550,000 and $600,000 a year in fuel. We'll cut that in half with this program.
Okay, wonderful. I think that's it for Marty. Thank you, sir. Suez, when we, I guess, finalized that contract with them, we had a $700,000 drawdown on.
It's a capital improvement credit.
Yes.
That accumulates. We'll send you a report on where we're at with that. I think we're coming up roughly on the first year of the amended contract, so first full year.
So these water main breaks, is that part of the $700,000 or no?
No.
Okay. And
under the contract, the water main break is considered an emergency event.
okay, all right. And I want to say maybe a meeting or so ago, you gave us a report regarding the finance department, and you said you was going to have us. You was going to give us an update a report regarding the function of the finance department based on that report. Are you able to talk about that?
We're still working on it.
Okay. And when do you think you will have that report ready for us?
In candor, I haven't really had a chance to go back to it because of budget, time constraints, so
That's all part of it.
I'm thinking that if you have one meeting in July, I can do it in July at that meeting. I know what's going to be on the June 18th agenda already, pretty much, and you definitely don't want anything else on there.
Okay. I have something else. That EEO, am I saying that correctly? How are we making out with that?
So, you're talking about the audit?
Yes, that audit.
We had an audit. We met with the auditor from the state. We're going to be implementing some controls to change, to bring us into greater compliance with the state's expectations.
If you had to give us a grade on that, a 1 to 10, what would you put us at? Currently,
We didn't do well.
didn't do well.
No. I hate to fail anybody, but
All right.
I'd be a horrible teacher.
Okay. All right.
But no, we didn't do well, and you have a remediation period where you can correct some of the deficiencies. And we're taking advantage of that remediation period, and we will address the deficiencies. And we're also putting together a process that will govern contracting and procurement going forward in terms of state guidelines.
Okay. So with that, we should be okay, and then we should be in compliance.
Well, we'll be able to be in compliance for those contracts that we actually have the documents on. There's still some contracts that we're not going to be able to be compliant on, and the state will tell us we're not in compliance, and then they'll monitor us to make sure that we improve.
So once we get that straightened out, who's going to be overseeing that function?
That's something I'm still working on with the mayor.
Okay. And you give us a full report once everything's up and running?
I will.
All right. And one last thing here, this amendment to 204-2019, can someone explain, Mr. City Attorney or BA, explain what's going on here with this amendment?
It's the East Orange work contract.
The one you just gave us. 204, 2019.
So I wrote most of the amendments and went over them with the city attorney thereafter. The original draft, I think, was modeled off the last resolution and contract, and I wanted it to be more specific to the action that's being taken tonight. So it's an amendment only because you didn't get it. It's actually a rewrite. I took out references to negotiation and deleted a number of other whereas clauses that I don't think we needed to reference. And so it's a little shorter and more to the point. It basically is focused on the contract that's attached and the necessary authorization to execute that contract.
So does this increase liability to us, or?
The contract is effectively the same as what was attached to the last resolution. It's just that the resolution is more specific to the action we're actually asking you to take tonight. So what this contract is it's for a period of 10 years. We believe that given the development potential, which includes both known and as of now unknown developments, that this contract will help us not only to meet capacity now, but over the next 10 years, including all of that. That assumes that all of that development takes place. And so it doesn't just put you in a position where your capacity meets your current water needs plus firefighting needs. It puts you in the position where if those demands increase, you will have the available capacity to tap through this contract. And at a much more favorable rate than what we were paying to American Water. It also provides you with redundancy. And by redundancy, what we mean is, God forbid we have a emergency catastrophic event that interrupts production in our wells or interrupts pumping capacity, we can turn this on as needed and fulfill some of that need based on the interruption.
All right. Rate didn't change?
No.
Okay, yeah, I see that, rate didn't change. Council members, any questions regarding this before we move on? Thank you.
Ordinance on second reading, public hearing. 12-2019, an ordinance to amend the code of the City of Orange Township, Chapter 200, Vehicle and Parking, Article 2, entitled Parking to Establish Requirements to Obtain Residential Parking Permits, sponsored by Councilmember Kerry J. Coley. The public hearing was postponed from 4/16/29, 5/7/2019, 5/21/2019. Are there any citizens who wish to speak? Is there a motion to close citizen comments?
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Johnson Jr. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt on final.
Move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Jackson, second by Councilwoman Williams. On the motion,
On the motion?
seeing none, roll call. Councilwoman Easton?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.?
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten?
Yes.
Council President Coley?
Yes.
21-2019, an ordinance to amend the code of the City of Orange Township, Chapter 200, entitled Vehicle and Traffic, Section 200-52-1, Handicap Parking Spaces, 192 Park Place. Are there any citizens who wish to speak?
Motion to close.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Jackson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt on final.
Move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Jackson, second by Councilwoman Williams. On the motion,
On the motion?
Council President,
Yes.
could I ask Mr. Mays one question?
Sure.
Is 192 between Washington and Park or Park and Main? Mr.
Marty
Coley, do you
Mees,
know?
I'm not sure.
Council President, do you know 192 Park where it is? The only reason I say this is because I travel that way. And I just wonder if sometimes when you're doing that, you make sure that putting cars there doesn't impede the traffic flow.
No, it's not, it's over by the, by the school. I believe that's,
By the school, Park Place?
yes, on the back of, Park Ave, on the side of Park Avenue School.
No, that's not. Is that Park Place? I thought Park Place was the one that run by the police station.
Say again? No, this is Park Place.
Okay, so
This,
Park Place
this is Park Place
where
right here. This is Park Place, the one way,
that
the one way
curves
that's
all
going
around.
out to Park Avenue.
Yeah.
It's right on the side of the schoolhouse.
Yeah, right on the side, right by the side of the gym.
No, I just say that because I guess as we move forward with these, we just got to make sure when we're doing that, we're not impeding the traffic flow. That is a
No,
narrow street
no,
there.
that's not impeding no traffic at all.
Yeah, okay.
I know they do the, early in the morning, they do the drop off of the, I think the milk and something else, but they are on the side of the school, not, on the side where the house right here is at. So they have
okay.
plenty of, space to get through.
That was my question.
Yep.
Roll call. Councilwoman Easton?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.?
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten?
Yes.
Council President Coley?
Yes.
22-2019, an ordinance to amend the code of the City of Orange Township, Chapter 200, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Section 200-44, Bus Stop Designated, North Day Street and White Street. Are there any citizens who wish to speak?
Motion to close?
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Johnson Jr. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt on final?
Move. Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilwoman Wooten. On the motion?
On the motion?
Seeing none, roll call. Councilwoman Easton?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.?
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten?
Yes.
Council President Coley?
Yes.
23-2019, an ordinance to amend the code of the City of Orange Township, Chapter 200, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Section 200-46, Schedule 15, Prohibited Turns at Intersection. Any citizens wish to speak? Motion to close?
Move.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Johnson Jr. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt on final?
Move.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams,
Second.
second by Councilman Johnson Jr. On the motion.
On the motion?
Seeing none, roll call. Councilwoman Easton.
Yes.
Councilman Jackson.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams.
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten.
Yes.
Council President Coley.
Yes.
Ordinance on introduction, first reading. 25-2019, an ordinance rescinding ordinance number 36-2018 and terminating the financial agreement with Carthage NJ Arlington LLC for payment in lieu of taxes pertaining to the property identified as Block 491, Lot 18, Lots 18 and 19 on the official tax map of the city. Is there a motion to adopt on first?
Move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Johnson Jr., second by Councilwoman Williams. On the motion?
On the motion?
On the motion, Council President?
Yes, Councilwoman Williams.
I just want to thank the Law Department. I really appreciate the cover sheets. It makes it, it clarifies, it just really helps at a bird's eye view to see what this is about. So thank you.
Okay.
Roll call. Councilwoman Easton?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.?
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten?
Yes.
Council President Coley?
Yes.
26-2019 has been postponed to the June 18th meeting. 27-2019, an ordinance to amend the code of the City of Orange Township, Chapter 200, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Section 46, Schedule 14, Prohibited Turns at Intersection. Motion to adopt that first?
Move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Jackson, second by Councilman Johnson Jr. On the motion?
On the motion?
On the motion, this,
Yes.
Council President, through you to Mr. Hartwick, I was thinking about this. Should we say intersection or just across lines?
That's what the section of the ordinance is entitled.
Okay, got you. Okay.
Roll call. Councilwoman Easton?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.?
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten?
Yes.
Council President Coley?
Yes.
Ordinance 28-2019, an ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Orange Township adopting Lincoln -- Highland Avenue redevelopment and rehabilitation plan pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A-7E. Motion to adopt on first?
Move.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Jackson. On the motion?
On the motion?
Seeing none, roll call. Councilwoman Easton?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.?
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten?
Yes.
Council President Coley?
Yes.
Ordinance 29-2019 is to be amended. A capital ordinance appropriating $85,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund to pay for energy-efficient improvements to various city facilities in and by the City of Orange Township in the County of Essex, State of New Jersey. In Section 2, We're going to remove the language heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. Is there a motion to adopt on first as amended?
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Johnson Jr. On the motion,
On the motion?
seeing none, roll call. Councilwoman Easton.
Yes.
Councilman Jackson.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams.
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten.
Yes.
Council President Coley.
Yes.
The final reading is scheduled for Tuesday, June 16th, 2019. If the date changes, it'll be July 16th, 2019. If the date changes, we will republish the advertisement for the public hearing. Consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. 182-2019 has been postponed to June 18th meeting. Um, 204-2019 has been amended and will be removed for a separate vote. 207-2019 was amended and will be removed for a separate vote. Are there any other items?
Council President,
Yes, Councilwoman.
184.
184? Removed for a separate vote.
Actually, I requested some information from the administration and from the Community Service Department regarding this, and I never got it.
You did.
Are there any other items?
Hold it.
No?
Hold it 184.
I'm sorry.
Hold
We're
184.
gonna continue to postpone it?
Postpone 184 to the next
I'll
meeting.
get you the report by the end of the week.
Okay, thank you.
The consent agenda consists of 194, 195, 196, 197, 198, 199, 200, 201, 202, 203, 205, and 206. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Move.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Jackson. On the motion,
On the motion?
seeing none, roll call. Councilwoman Easton.
Yes.
Councilman Jackson.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams.
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten.
Yes.
Council President Coley.
Yes.
204-2019. A resolution authorizing the City of Orange Township to enter into an agreement with the East Orange Water Commission for the bulk sale and purchase of water for the period of 10 years. BA, do you want to go over briefly what was amended? I know you did already, but
We took out any reference to negotiated. We deleted some inapplicable or outdated whereas clauses, and we changed the authorization section to specifically authorize the execution of the attached agreement.
is there a motion to adopt as amended?
Move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Johnson Jr., second by Councilman Jackson. On the motion,
On the motion?
On the motion, Council President?
Yes, Councilwoman Williams.
I'm sorry, this just came in my mind. This, as an ordinance, wouldn't be more appropriate for this one?
Why?
Because it's a utility and it's long-term.
It's a government-to-government contract. So because it's a government-to-government contract, there is a whereas clause that I don't think I took out. There's the third one up from the bottom. Agreement of this nature may be negotiated and awarded by the governing body without public advertising for bids or bidding therefore, and awarded by resolution pursuant to 40A:11-5 as an agreement entered into with a municipality or other board, body, officer, agency, or authority thereof.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Council President.
You're quite welcome.
Roll call, Councilwoman Easton,
Yes.
Councilman Jackson,
Yes?
Councilman Johnson Jr.,
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten,
Yes.
Council President Coley.
Yes.
207-2019 is to be amended. A resolution amending Resolution 107-2019 and authorizing the amendment of the professional service agreement entered into by the City of Orange Township and First Choice Financial Group, LLC, for asset management assessment consulting services with regard to the City of Orange Township water and sewer infrastructure from an amount not to exceed $35,000 to an amount not to exceed $220,000, and that is the amendment, the dollar amount. The seventh whereas is also going to be changed to $220,000, and then the now therefore clause will be changed to $220,000. Is there a motion to adopt as amended?
There's
There are
another
additional
amendment.
amendments.
There's additional? Where are they?
So, the VA did put the additional amendments or the terms to be amended on the record previously. They include status reports that are going to be given to the city council following certain periods. So 2 new whereas clauses or 2 new paragraphs were added to this resolution. I will read them into the record, and I will submit the amended resolution to the clerk's office tomorrow. So underneath the last whereas clause on the first page, that reads or that begins, whereas the City of Orange Township anticipates that $220,000 will be the aggregate amount. So underneath that, I've added 2 paragraphs, 2 new whereas clauses. The first whereas clause will read, whereas the consulting services will be segregated into 3 separate phases through completion and billed accordingly, semicolon, and whereas status reports of the consulting services will be presented to the City of Orange Township for the balance of the calendar year after 2 months, 4 months, and 6 months, with a written report being submitted for City Council review at the first meeting of the months of July, September, and November, followed by an in-person report to be presented to the City Council at the second meeting of the months of July, September, and November. Underneath that, then it continues with the whereas clause, which cites the local public contracts law, and underneath that, finally, the whereas clause, which cites the certification of fund availability. BA, I believe that's the only amendments, correct?
That's right.
Is there a motion to adopt as amended?
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Johnson Jr. On the motion,
On the motion.
seeing none, roll call. Councilwoman Easton,
Abstain.
Councilman Jackson,
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.,
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten,
Abstain.
Council President Coley.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 yeas, 2 abstain, motion passed. New business and walk-on ordinances and resolutions. The following 2 ordinances and one ordinance and one resolution, 2019 WO and Resolution 208-2019 WO are being considered to be walked on tonight's agenda. Ordinance 30-2019 WO is an ordinance of the City of Orange Township amending Chapter 4 Administration of Government, Section 4-17.2 Constables of the City of Orange Township Municipal Code. Resolution 208-2019 WO, a resolution celebrating the life of Carrie B. Holder, sponsored by Council Member Donna K. Williams. Is there a motion to walk these items on the agenda?
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Jackson. On the motion,
On the motion.
seeing none, roll call. Councilwoman Easton,
Yes.
Councilman Jackson,
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.,
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten,
Yes.
Council President Coley.
Yes.
Are there any citizens who wish to speak? Is there a motion to close citizen comments?
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Johnson Jr. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance 30-2019 WL. An ordinance of the City of Orange Township amending Chapter 4, Administration of Government, Section 4-17.2, Constables of the City of Orange Township Municipal Code. Is there a motion to adopt on first?
Move.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Jackson. On the motion?
On the motion?
Council President.
Yes.
So my question is, personally, I haven't had time to read all of this, and I see the strike-throughs and I see the underlines in the beginning, and it looks like the same things. For example, one says must be a U.S. citizen, and then must be a U.S. citizen is there. So for me, I need to read this in its entirety before I can vote on it. Or is it like imperative that we vote on this tonight?
This is the first read. When's the public hearing? Abon? When's the public hearing? Is it gonna be?
This first reading, July 16th.
Yeah, this is first read, and all those concerns that you have, they could be answered prior to and during the second read.
I'm sorry, when's the public hearing? That's what I'm asking, I'm sorry.
July 16th?
That's what I was asking, okay.
Right.
Sorry.
So, just so everybody's clear, and it doesn't go to your question, but what we did is, we took that section of the ordinance which addressed constables, struck the whole thing, and replaced it with the whole new ordinance.
I'm sorry, replace it with?
Replaced it with the whole new ordinance. In other words, you won't find constables mentioned in any other section of the city code except the one that's struck by striking through 4-17.2.
Right.
And it's to be replaced with what starts on page 3.
Can you summarize what you're replacing? Because you're increasing the duties?
We're increasing the duties in terms of what they're authorized to do. So obviously, the qualifications don't change because that's statutory. But we are increasing duties. We enumerate applications for how to apply for appointment. We reiterated the annual charge. We put in how vacancies are filled. We beefed up the report section. We beefed up the prohibited activities section.
So
We
did
added
we
the
add
whole-
pay rates?
Pardon?
We added pay rates? Or not?
We didn't add pay rates.
They don't get paid.
We
I
said
just need
the-
to read it, that's all.
Yeah, no, I'm just giving a summary.
All right.
We added the duties under quality of life policing. Those are certain things that we were very focused on. We set a minimum pay rate in section J. And we put in the provision regarding chain of command and violations. So it's, that's why there's a repeat. That's all I was getting at. The reason that certain things are repeated from what was struck out is because we took what the code said.
You replaced
and
it.
then replaced it with a whole new
Chapter.
ordinance on constables, and some of that has to be in the ordinance.
Council President, I have two questions. Currently, they do get paid?
Right now, they get paid per task.
Okay, by the city or by the,
Depends on the task they're performing.
so it could be paid by the county or whoever that's utilizing them?
Right.
Do you ever any point in the city of Orange and the residency, the population ever thinking that we're gonna ever need 50?
Right.
I don't know.
I'm just saying, with
I-
2.2 square miles, do you ever see us needing 50 constables at one time?
So, assuming they work shifts, right? that would be roughly 17 or 16 and a half constables per shift.
But they don't really, if we look at past history,
This
they
is
haven't been utilized a lot, because none of them have reports at any time. So,
Well, they haven't been utilized a lot because if you look at what they're allowed to do in the crossed-out section versus what they're allowed to do in the new ordinance, it's completely different. I mean, I don't know whether we'd ever need 50. I can't really answer that question.
so why don't you just say 25?
That's a council decision.
Because
I can't see 50 constables running around
the
the city.
state, well, it always been 50 in our ordinance, and that's what it always has been in our ordinance. We allow 50, and that's just what the state law says that we are allowed. If you look at the old ordinance,
It says 50 in the old one?
yes,
Because
yes.
I always thought it was like 3 or 4. Maybe I read
you
something
know,
wrong.
if you, I don't know where it is in the actual ordinance, but it always, you can have up to 50.
If I may, Council President?
Yes, Councilman
In the old
Jackson.
ordinance, says 40-2012, in the first section, the allotment is 50. And,
Right.
If you notice that, Council President Eason voted for it both times.
I did? Where you see that at?
On the back of that page.
I've had second thoughts.
Let's go to the videotape.
I'm telling you, he just Exhibit A.
You voted on it.
I'm serious.
Okay, moving right on.
So Councilwoman Easton, are you finished? We're on the motion. Anything
Council
else?
President?
Yes, Councilwoman Wooten.
So, through you to the BA or the Finance Department, so have we ever paid any constables? Have they ever done any work for the city, and have we ever paid anyone?
I'd have to check.
Council President?
Yes, Councilwoman Williams.
So, as far as I know, when we appoint them, with the projects that they're currently allowed to do, they usually get paid from those projects that they're currently allowed, that are not from taxpayers, from the budget, correct?
Typically, yes.
Typically. So, unless we do, so what's being envisioned right now is that in this expansion of duties, that we will now have a line item, for them to be paid?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
It's still anticipated that this would be, at the very least, revenue neutral, because if you look at most of the things they're authorized to do, it either comes with fees or fines.
Okay. And so that, and then that is, so I'm giving an example, will they be able, looking to do maybe the, give me something that, I'm thinking like the traffic with the public service, or when they're doing one of those projects, or something, no, give me something, I'm trying to think.
No, it's more like, we have a bunch of warrants that
Right.
are issued by the municipal court that are on serious backlog,
Okay.
right?
And
So,
and those fines go into an account, and then you
Correct.
would, okay.
you know, enforcement, boosting
enforcement, okay.
enforcement for code enforcement,
Gotcha.
with, you know, the code enforcement people. Property maintenance code violations, abandoned properties, illegal content seizures.
Gotcha.
We can use them to provide security in the municipal court, to free up officers so that they can be out on the street. We can use them on school patrol. We can use them on traffic patrol. So,
So go back to, so school patrol, same, in the same as the crossing guards?
no, not necessarily.
Okay.
School patrol could be, you know, they could be dispatched for a park and walk at, you know, either assembly time when kids arrive at school or when they're leaving school. The whole idea around the ordinance was to provide and create flexibility for the command staff at the police department to allocate their police officers to the really frontline police work. And we identified a bunch of things either that we would love to do or that we need to do and don't have all of the manpower to do it because of other resource allocation decisions.
And normally, so constables come through the appointment of city council members, right? You said a max of 70, so that's roughly like 7 per council member. So how do you propose, so you will establish or assess and see that there's a need, and then you'll come to the council and say, we need 5 constables, can you appoint?
I'd actually rely upon the police department command staff to make those recommendations to the administration, because the chain of command would be the same as any other police or law enforcement officer.
Right, so they'll tell you, and then you'll come to the council.
Correct.
And just say, we need 5, or we have 10, and we need 15, so we need you to appoint 5 more.
Yes.
And then in the pay rates, you says all constables starting pay shall start at $30 an hour.
Correct.
And then it says the city council and the VA will determine a constable's pay rate. So anything in excess of $30?
Correct.
So if it's after a year, somebody, we look at the budget and say, hey, they've been here X amount of years, we think this should go up to 32?
Yeah.
But the initial, if this is to go forward, the initial will be, if they're constable, it will be $30 an hour.
Yeah, and we would address in the appointment resolution any difference from that.
Okay.
And the appointments are for a period of 3 years, if I remember correctly.
And for the persons that are already appointed, they will fall up under this?
I would probably do reappointments under the new ordinance for everybody.
Okay, so the ones that are already there, then they would have to come back through and be reappointed. And then again, that appointment is council.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's it for now. Thank you.
Council President.
Yes, Councilwoman
So through
Wooten.
you to the BA. So the statement of purpose should add something about the police department. Because it just talks about amending the duties of the constable. It's not saying anything as to
I
the
think that's
police
a good point.
department. And then when you go to the recitals, probably it should also speak to that in recitals, like whereas, instead of just big paragraph right here, where it talks about the police department and public safety.
Yeah, I think we could make those amendments.
Go get the truck, go get the truck.
The recitals.
On the first page. So are you gonna do that now to amend it, or?
I think what we'll do is, those aren't terribly material amendments, so I'll just make the amendments and have them, assuming the ordinance is introduced, I'll just make the amendments between now and the public hearing and so that it's published correctly.
Okay. And,
Any other questions, council members?
Roll call. Councilwoman Easton?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.?
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
yes.
Councilwoman Wooten?
No.
Council President Coley?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 no. Motion passed. The public hearing is tentatively for July 16th. 208-2019 WO, a resolution celebrating the life of Carrie B. Holder, sponsored by Council Member Donna K. Williams. Is there a motion to adopt?
Move.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilwoman Wooten. On the motion,
On the motion.
seeing none, roll call. Councilwoman Easton,
Yes.
Councilman Jackson,
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.,
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wooten,
Yes.
Council President Coley.
Yes.
Other pending business.
Council President,
Yes, Councilwoman Williams.
and I apologize, it just came over, Mr. Hartwick, are there any updates with the New Jersey Transit lease?
No.
Okay, okay. If we can, just get an update at the next meeting, please? Sir?
We will.
Okay.
Just for the record, Saturday, June 8th, 2019 is a department public hearing, 9 a.m. Tuesday, June 11th, 2019, 7 p.m. And Thursday, June 13th, 7 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move second.
Motion by Councilwoman Williams, second by Councilman Johnson Jr. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned, 10:21 p.m.